Pretty good.
I finally got a game for my Xbox. Yeah,
Oh yeah, what's that?
got a game for my Xbox. I got GTA 5 because I
Ah, good
just thought
choice.
I've
Yeah,
got to play it.
that's good.
To be
Yeah.
done. Yeah, I'm gonna be controversial
Oh yeah.
and say that it's in comparison to San Andreas. I think the scope is smaller.
Yeah.
I've noticed
Yeah.
like the fact that San Andreas, like with all the computing power that the Xbox One has, that they decided to. I'm complaining essentially now about a 7-year-old release, but I just thought. I mean, I think the graphics look phenomenal and the missions are great, but the fact that what I think was good about San Andreas is that there was the scope of 3 different environments, like 3 different cities, which are
Okay.
essentially, pulling it down is like a parody of Los Angeles, a parody of San Francisco, and a parody of Las Vegas and all the surrounding areas of those 3 cities. And the fact that this
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
just one, I don't know, like it's sort of I really thought like when I started it and then you expand through the map and you go out and you explore through the map that it would actually like I thought, oh, there's going to be another city, and then when it's just one, sort of thought that's a bit of a disappointment, even though the map is vast.
Oh, my
uh,
headset keeps.
I just
Oh, sorry, it keeps going. "Diddle-loom," You know when you plug a USB in and it makes that noise.
oh dum
Yeah,
like
that
that thing,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, it keeps going over and
Oh
over
no, I've
again.
got a hard
Disconnecting.
drive that just
So.
does that randomly. Like you'll have it plugged in and it just decides to alert itself. It just go like
Yeah.
that for some reason. Is Joe being super still or is his image frozen?
Um, Joe, you still there, mate? Dukes? Oh no, we've lost him.
Oh no. Terrible. And I appear to have turned the DVD player on without even knowing I've done it. It's just sitting on the. I got the DVD. I've got a little box at the end of my bed with a tiny DVD and a TV on it, and I think I went to go get my phone. I appear to have turned on the DVD player.
All right. Good. Well, at least
I
your
had no idea
DVD's
I
ready
did
to
that.
go.
Like I just nudged it. Yeah, well, DVDs. Yeah, whatever. What's in there at the moment? Star Trek series, the original Star Trek series
Oh yeah.
3,
Nice.
mastered. So yeah, which is I fall asleep to that. I find it quite. I don't know. I find like the whole '60s vibe of it quite pleasing and
Yeah.
easy going on the eye. Way that I'm still working my way through Voyager
A
at the
bit.
moment on Netflix, just to sort of recapping it.
Well, you got lockdown series to watch, don't you? It's no better
Got plenty,
opportunity.
yeah.
So
Found the X File. My brother revealed that he's actually been paying for a BritBox subscription for ages, and like there's so much stuff on there. I didn't realize. Like I was a bit cynical about it at first, but the fact they've got, if I want to be a kid again, they've got like all the Captain Scarlet and Thunderbirds, and they got
Captain Scarlet,
all
dun
the
dun
Hammer
dun
horror
dun dun.
films.
Yeah.
I love that as a kid.
Dun
It
dun
was
dun dun
dark.
dun
Like
dun.
you look at it now and you go like, geez, that was actually like so many
Yeah.
people died in Captain Scarlet all the time, and then there was just like there was a lot of shooting. Like you would think like you would not release that as a kids TV series now.
No, yeah. It's well, it's just the same kind of vein as quite a lot of the old ones, like Magic Roundabout and all that, wasn't it? It's kind of like more adult themes than kind of it suggests or it seems.
Mm. It's not infantile. It's like quite dark. Always got a bit freaked out when Captain Black was like standing over his own grave in the graveyard with that deep voice. That always messed me up a bit.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, so I got that. So I got that, and I got Netflix. I've got
Have
working my
you
way through the X Files, which is kind of cool.
a good series that you should watch is one called Alice in
Oh, yeah,
Borderland. Alice in Borderland. It's
Alice in Borderland. I
yeah,
have seen that advertised, and I can't remember on what platform
it's
it's been
Netflix and it's
advertised.
really good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to Stranger Things 4.
oh yep, that's on its way.
I'm
That'd be
really
cool.
psyched for that. Like it's one of those things where it's very rarely like a show that I can be like part of. Like, oh, I can't wait for this to come out.
Oh, okay.
And I really am because, of course, they left the perfect cliffhanger
Yeah.
on the last one. Um, so I'm really intrigued as to what happens in that one, and I'm going to try. I know that like the temptation will be to binge it when it comes out. We're going to try and watch it like a traditional show, like maybe watch one episode
Oh, a
every
week or something, or a
three
couple of
days or
days.
something.
Yeah.
Well, I feel it ruined it. Like I just feel it's like I'll just a bit like it's a traditional, broadcast TV show. Like so, I have the patience of my mum. My mum, like the way my mum watches TV is so completely different like to the way that I consume it, because she doesn't do any kind of streaming or on demand TV whatsoever.
No.
She doesn't do DVD, so literally she's got to be there at the time that it's broadcast. And it's mostly programs about animals, and she's always asking about like a drama. Did you see this drama last night? Like, was it on BBC One, and was it like mostly about someone who, like a detective who sort of works in like a place where basically you're there for the view of like some nice English countryside? She's like, yeah, it was that kind of drama. I was like, no, I haven't watched that. It's like, that's the only reason you're watching it as well, because you was like, well, I wasn't following the plot, but I do love the Yorkshire Dales. They look so nice on the camera. It's like, well, just go there. Why do you have to like
Yeah.
your whole TV experience is based around nice scenery? It's
You
like,
want you
once lockdown's over, just drive there.
yeah, you want escapism. You don't want something that you can
You want
just nip down to
escapism.
the.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then it's like you literally, but what you want to see is like nice views. It's like, it's Google Earth, Just get it on
Yeah.
our iPad. It's like, look, you literally go and I could Google like
Many
pictures,
episodes as
Yorkshire
you want
Dales.
there.
Yeah, picturesque Yorkshire Dales. Google search first images. Like, woo, there you go.
Mhm.
Look at that. You don't have to watch an entire like quite boring, like sort of not very involved drama in order to see nice scenery. That's
Yeah.
Otherwise, I suppose some people like that. Otherwise, Midsummer Murders wouldn't still be
Oh, I love
going,
Midsummer
which I
Murders,
think
the
is.
old stuff. I haven't seen any of the new
I
stuff.
do like a bit. I do remember watching Midsummer Murders as a young lad.
Yeah.
Just Inspector Barnaby,
And Frost.
all that. Yeah. Oh, Frost. Yeah. Well, Morse. I used to watch.
Yeah, Morse as well.
'cause
Yeah.
my mum loved Morse. Like,
Right.
that's like
Where's
you get to see
Dougal
a bit
got
of the
to?
Oxfordshire country. Yeah. But then again, of course, as a result of Midsummer Murders, as an indirect result, that's given us Lawrence Fox. So,
Yeah.
com see, com sa. Like, I don't think it look like, I know it's not personal effect, but like Lawrence Fox, like he's partially kind of like collapsing in on himself.
Who? Sorry.
I sort of looked at him. Lawrence Fox. He always looks like he's
Oh
sort
yeah.
of like his face looks like he's sort of like being eaten, hollowed out from the inside. Looks like
Yeah.
somebody's
A
sucking all
Death
his
Eater or
skin in
something
from
like.
the inside.
Yeah.
Probably all the hatred like burning him up inside, or just realizing how much money there is to be made out of it.
I know, right? Jesus Christ, he went full on, didn't he? Damn.
Oh, of course he did. I think he's found his niche in being
Relevant again.
Yeah, relevant again. But like, there's a bit of a weird dichotomy between, what would I call it? Like, people who consider themselves on the side of a conservative government, but also don't want to follow any of their rules if they apply.
I know, it's so strange, isn't it? It's a lot of the Conservatives. They'll back Boris and the establishment, but then
like,
hate the
I will not
establishment.
wear a mask,
It's
I
like,
will not go out. Like, your guy's the one telling you to do this, so kind of
listen to your leader.
It's like, listen to your leader, yeah, and
Or your representative, yeah.
at the same time, yeah, at the same time, it's like, so Boris is doing a great job. He's right, but you're gonna not wear a mask, and if you get accosted, quote the Magna Carta, like, which is totally irrelevant to what's actually going on, and you're gonna scream tyranny. But if you see any pictures of protests of, I don't know, like, BLM protesters or whatever, you're gonna say, oh, they should just obey
Any
the law.
minority group.
Then you do something. Any minority group just kind of like peacefully protesting, and then they just like slam them down to full force of the law.
Or just create a
What about you,
counter
like-
movement which has no actual base. Yeah, it's just a spite movement, like the All Lives Matter and White
A
Lives
spite
Matter and all that
movement.
stuff.
Yeah, I suppose that's
Just
what
like-
it is. I suppose that's quite a good way of describing
Pretend
it.
they're the ones that are the minority or being oppressed.
Yeah, exactly. You're like you're a big majority, or what is it? One of Louis C.K.'s like earliest bits from like when he was very, very young, starting off. He had a bit of where he said he was in a room, a party with a friend, and his friend said, "Look at all the minorities here. There's so many. I'm the only majority." He's like, "Dude, if you're like the one and only person of one particular thing, you're not the majority. You are by then default a minority. You can't say you're surrounded by minorities if you're the only one. Like, say if you're the only white guy in a house party, you can't suddenly claim that you're majority surrounded by minorities."
Yeah. Well, I don't believe a lot of them understand concepts. Well, they understand the concepts, but they use the rhetoric and the slogans and stuff like that to kind of bolster their view rather than actually think about what they're saying, like the White Lives Matter and all this. Like, well, yeah, obviously.
Oh yeah, like when they shout cancel culture, it's like,
oh yeah.
well, have you been cancelled? Have you had your Twitter taken
It's
away?
just
Have you
people
not been
getting
allowed
held to
social
account,
media?
isn't it? That's all it
Of course
is.
it is. It's like the consequences of freedom of speech. You're perfectly allowed to
I hate the way that they
absolutely
hijacked
100%.
freedom of speech. That was the left thing through,
Yeah, it's
and then they just completely ran away with it. People said
it's
that he's
it's, it's
restarting his
sort of
laptop.
like it's kind of like it's an interesting thing of like what they don't like is actually anyone being able to speak back.
Yeah.
I think that's like that's what they consider like cancelling. I mean, the whole Donald Trump losing his Twitter type thing.
Oh,
Um, that was
that
that.
was
I mean, that was an
hilarious.
interesting one because I think initially we all went, "Oh, thank God," but then there was the whole
Should you?
but then it's yeah, and then they said
Yeah.
it's big government. It's like it's not big government. It's like a private company, but that
Yeah.
private company is incredibly influential in day-to-day life now. You know, both let's say Twitter and Facebook are incredibly influential
To be fair, some of the left are
on
quite bad at um kind of seeing the kind of bigger picture there as well. Like say if the cancelling of like Donald Trump and stuff like that. Obviously, yeah, obviously there's misinformation and stuff like that. But did Donald Trump go to any other like it's basically just narrows them down into a smaller group who then will come up like before. I mean, you'd rather have them out in the open is what I'm trying to say. Sorry. It's
I would say that you know, it's one of those things where I didn't like the idea of Parler being shut down,
who?
but I
Sorry.
kind of like the idea of more of them. Parler, you know
Oh, Parler. Sorry, yeah,
that
Parler.
you
Yeah.
know the Parler, yeah, the
Mm.
basically that you know what is let's boil it down as Twitter for Nazis essentially is what it
And
comes
then
down
all
to.
the
And
details
when they
got
talk
leaked.
about free speech, yeah, all the data got leaked, like the entire every single post. Was
Yeah.
it like terabytes and terabytes worth of
Yeah,
info,
that
like,
like
and all got sent to the FBI?
yeah, they got Conservative MPs on there and loads of different bits and bobs like celebrities and.
I think they don't quite understand the whole. I think you're right with the premise of free speech is that they don't understand that somebody using that same platform to disagree with you does not constitute being cancelled. It
Mm.
constitutes exactly what you're premising, which is free speech. You're using that to express something that's probably pretty shitty, and somebody's probably using that same thing to explain to you why it's shitty and why why you're wrong and how you're wrong.
Mhm.
So saying that the obsession with we're being cancelled and cancelled and cancelled, and it's like, are you? You know, are you being cancelled? Because we can still hear you. You know, if we can still hear
Oh,
you,
yes,
and
the
the
whole
silent majority,
silencing and
it's
all
like,
that.
oh,
Oh,
silent
who was it?
majority,
Who was
silent
that recently? What's her name? Was it Conway?
American, British.
American politician. She's like, is it Laura?
Not Marjorie
Laura?
Taylor Greene, not that crazy
Uh,
woman.
bear with
Was she,
me.
she a Republican Trump toady type
Yeah,
person, or what was she?
yeah, she's definitely a Republican.
What was the issue? What was the thing that she said? If you even if you can't
Oh,
remember her name, because
Tulsi
might jog my
Gabbard. That's
memory.
it, Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi Gabbard, yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like.
yeah.
The thing is, I like Tulsi Gabbard. I really do. I think that she was probably one of the it was her,
Mm,
Andrew Yang, and uh Bernie Sanders that were basically the only three in the Democratic primary that I was sort of interested in or behind. I've
yep,
heard her talk at length about things, and I get what she's saying. I think you said you either use it or you don't allow it at all, but there can't really be an in between.
yeah.
And I would say that it's probably more dangerous pushing all this stuff underground where it's not so overt. It's almost like an advantage to the lawmakers, the FBI, the police. If you have people openly sort of saying they're going to commit terrorism in the open,
Mm,
um, because at least you can identify them and track them down. And we're like, congratulations, this is a result of your free speech. It's not you being cancelled. It's a result of you using free speech to set up things like attacks on the Capitol, for example.
yeah, I know
So
stuff like that, as well as like her constant well, she's been talking a lot about her being silent. Hey, Dukes, you're back. Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard's been talking about. That's right, mate. How the left will stop at nothing to silence, basically the talking of the Conservatives and stuff like that. Yeah, you can see her on multiple talk shows like all the time talking about it. So she hasn't been silenced. I don't know why she's
I
gone down
think
that
she
route.
wasn't talking about herself in that particular thing. I think she was more talking about, um, she was more to. I think that she's very much on the side of. I think she's on side of the Snowdens and the Assanges and that sort of thing in regards to freedom of information.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I still, which I
Most
think
people should.
is probably fair play.
Yeah, obviously,
Yeah, exactly. Which I know where I stand on that, but I think
hmm
that it is a bit disappointing because I think she had some. I think in a certain way she's understood how to reach out to conservative and Republican voters with what she said. As in,
hmm
like she'd probably get, in terms of a vote getting machine, if she was allowed to, she'd probably bring in more people than your Mayor Pete's or whatever, or your Kamala Harris's and what have you.
yeah,
I think she was a lot better at reaching across the aisle in a way that wasn't like just giving tax breaks to Billy. Like when anyone talks about reaching across the aisle in American politics, it's usually like, well, whatever the Republicans want, which is giving humongous tax breaks to billionaires and deregulating more industry
yeah,
and sort of allowing for basically more corruption. She didn't think that that was how it was. She was like sort of what's the issues of the people here, and she was on a pod. I think it was Joe Rogan's new Spotify one, talking about the fact that her
I'd have to watch
audiences
the
were
new
pretty
one.
much
How long ago was
square
that?
down the middle. I think 10 days, not even 2 weeks
Oh, was
ago.
it?
I think very, very, very recent. Yeah, I mean,
Let's
it's
have a look.
obviously they've only just made the move over there, and
Yeah.
I it has to be video. You can't just have the
Oh
audio.
yeah, I
Well,
see.
you can
2
have
weeks
the
ago.
audio. So when you go on, it's like when you used to go on Apple Podcasts, which is what I would use. You would obviously, or you could watch it on YouTube. It's now just like one platform only, and it's video and audio at the same time,
Mm.
which I listened to while I was driving and without the video. But I found that it was, for some reason, I found it was very liable to freeze quite a lot,
Alright.
and you had to sort of you had to keep restarting it manually. Like you had to keep going back on, and when you went back on, you're looking on your screen at the video version, and you're getting the audio as well. So it's kind of like everything from the old two formats combined into one that you don't have the option of like only choosing the. Yeah, I chose to download it offline and then listen to it later because I'm absolutely sure that it would probably absolutely rinse through your data, like watching,
Yeah.
3 hours worth of having to stream through.
I'll
It's
have to
probably a
watch that
very
later
clever
on, I
thing
think.
that, to be honest, it's probably like a very clever thing that Spotify's probably done with like the phone company, so people just use extraordinary more amounts of data.
hmm
Kind of like with the car companies and oil companies combining. It's like let's just not try and improve fuel efficiency because that helps us both.
Oh, he's gone again.
Oh no, he's gonna go. He's not having a lot of luck. How am I?
No.
How am I the first person to in the middle of flipping nowhere to have any kind of
Strengthen your connection.
decent
Yeah.
internet, decent video and sound quality? And I'm usually the one complaining I can't get a single bar of signal on my dog and bone.
Mm,
Which I still can't. I just have to use it as like a. Is he restarting it again?
I think so.
Oh,
So,
God.
so, so, what have you been
Oh.
like catching up in the news? Is there anything new that you want to talk about? Or?
I've been obviously the whole vaccination thing is ongoing.
Yeah.
Um, to me, the ones that I've
See, the
been sort of
WHO have said that the UK, it was what's it called, Astra
AstraZeneca.
that's the one, yeah, AstraZeneca, should be available to adults and is safe and all that. So
Is this
yeah,
the single dose one they've just come up with rather than the sort of
I think
two
it's the
doses?
double one. We've got to have them like 2 weeks apart, I think. But I didn't know there was a single
Yeah,
one coming up.
I think that they'd come up with something that said there's something like they're getting something like the original two. I think had 90% effectiveness over two jabs. Like it built to 90% over two jabs, and I think they said that this single one had like a nigh on 70% effectiveness with one jab.
Oh, okay.
So the idea would be kind of for the sake of, I think there's a long-term plan possibly in the works as to do we just move over to this new one as soon as we can, give everybody one jab because that essentially gets everybody vaccinated to a 70% level, as opposed to waiting for this I think some of them
Financial
is like they're
Times.
expecting a 12-week
Oh, it's like
gap.
that's the BioNTech and Pfizer one that it's
Was
like.
that one? Yeah, I couldn't remember the name. I think yeah, because I think to be honest, it's in the interest of everybody to make one that is effective on its own. And
Yeah.
if the strand does keep mutating,
Hmm.
then again, it's like if it's got the potential to mutate, vaccinating everybody will essentially probably slow the mutation right down because if it can't have what one might call a host or a host where it can do its duty, it will just wither it. It's like anything. It's like
It wants to live in the, it wants to keep it
it
alive.
wants to live in the
Well, it's meant for
yeah,
animals, wasn't
exactly,
it?
and
Bats and all that. So.
yeah, exactly. But what's interested me, and I haven't wanted to go down the route that it's got me going, but
Hmm.
the fact that what's the biologists are confused about is they said with most viruses when they mutate in a way just to keep themselves alive, which basically means that they weaken their effectiveness at hurting the host,
Hmm.
and they become maybe more transmittable, but they become less
Dangerous.
lethal.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that this new South African variant is actually getting more dangerous as it goes along than the original one, that's so out of the ordinary that
Hmm.
there was a chap who was on Bill Maher, Real Time with Bill Maher's show, and I think it's his name Brett Weinstein. He's been on a few things
Brett
like
Weinstein. Yeah, I know Brett
Rogan.
Weinstein.
I
Yeah, yeah.
think it is, yeah, and he's
The
quite
guy with the
listen. Well,
scruffy kind of hair and.
very scruffy, yeah, very scruffy dark hair, a bit of
Yeah,
scraggly
yeah,
looking guy, and he was saying that they didn't want to think that it was possibly made in a lab, but there's something so
Oh, I saw
weirdly
that one, I think.
sinister about do you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
something so weirdly sinister. The fact that of all the viruses, this is doing the opposite to what a virus should do.
Well,
That's natural. That's it could just be a fluke, but because
well,
I remember hearing the same
they had an
day
investigation,
that
didn't they, from the WHO? WHO had
yeah,
investigated it, and this is that they found no evidence that came from a lab. Um, so
it could well be a pangolin. It could just be like a pangolin, which I think is just a description of any kind of like creature. It could
yeah.
easily just be the fact that this is just so new. It's displaying things that we haven't seen in humans before. I mean, for all we know, this might be very common in animals, and could develop that way. But we're not used to something where it just gets you know more and more deadly as it mutates. I think it's funny enough. There's a Futurama and a Simpsons reference for everything because
Oh, yep.
um, there is an episode where I think Fry like inadvertently like
Fry.
unfreezes something
Oh,
from a
Futurama. Yeah,
thousand
yeah.
years ago.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think within it, like it was something that he sneezed into when he was, a teenager, and then he opens it up, but that's got the common cold in it, and the
Mhm.
rest of the world hasn't experienced the common cold, and he literally almost kills everybody it comes into contact with because it's almost like a virus that's become so effective now that the immune systems have grown to not essentially have to deal with it.
A lot of the
So
antibodies and that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. No antibodies. Yeah, which is what I find amazing about the people who don't understand. Like my mum's used to do chemistry and biology. Like she studied biology and then like worked as a chemist.
Oh, yeah.
And she just said it's like people thinking it changes your DNA. It's like no, it's RNA. Like that's
RNA.
the body of a virus is essentially RNA, which if I RNA meaning, and for those at home playing the home game,
Mhm.
it's ribonucleic acid, which is a nucleic acid present in all living cells. Its principal
It's
role
like
is
a
to act as
protein
a
or something,
messenger
isn't
carrying instructions from DNA of DNA for controlling the synthesis of proteins, although in some
it? Yeah.
viruses, RNA rather than DNA carries the genetic information. I think that all I can explain it very simply, and they said that all the vaccine does is it's basically ease up the antibodies so that they react very
The
quickly
immune system
to
basically
you know
doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't know to
yeah,
attack
it's
it and stuff.
basically it's basically like sort of boot camp for your immune system essentially is what it is. So what I still don't understand even to this day, where are people getting this 5G idea from?
Oh,
Not
mate.
only is it like deadly and but it's going to be injected into you.
I'm
Where
pretty sure.
how do you become
I don't know how true this is, but I saw a video that 5G tower. Someone basically posted a video saying that they planned it all basically, and they made the 5G thing a whole. Let me try and find it.
When you say they planned it all, what do you mean? You mean they?
As in, like, someone purposely spread it just to make a point that basically about conspiracy theorists. Who was it?
Oh, you mean it's like it's sort of like it's playing them at their own game. It's like that's like what is it? Poe's law. Like if it sounds so ridiculous, it either has to be a conspiracy theory or a parody of one.
Yeah. Let me try and find it.
So
It's really
essentially,
interesting.
somebody tried to make people believe it to make conspiracy theorists sound rightly ludicrous as they are.
Um, um, is this it?
At first, I did believe there was a
Mm,
virus.
no. I'd have to get back to you, but I don't know if it's satire or not. But yeah, there's this guy who basically saying that. Well, yeah, he created this story and tried to push it to see how far it'd get and into the mainstream media and all this, and then there was fires and it's rife obviously all over Facebook as well as other platforms. But
Right.
I'd have to get you that. You'd have to make a judgment call on if it's a satire or if there's much um, truth to it. But yeah,
To it. I think that the well, you found it.
no, not yet.
Well, uh the thing that I heard today. What was interesting is what I heard today is what was it yesterday? But it was someone talking on James O'Brien about how Facebook is still for money,
Hmm.
is still allowing people like David Icke and various
Oh,
other
I know,
conspiracy
right?
theorists
And
to
Jeremy Corbyn's
this is this
brother.
Gaia
I'm
thing,
back
and
in.
There he is.
yeah, and
Hey,
Piers
hey,
Corbyn and
and
people like that.
we can see you within, um,
Yeah,
in sync and
I'm
stuff.
using my phone now because the
Okay.
internet is just shit. So I'm using it on my phone because I can't seem to hotspot it for some reason.
All right.
Ah,
But yeah, look,
So I've
let's.
switched
I
my
was
phone
just
to.
saying, Dougal, how is it that out of all the people, me living in the dark ages out in the country, I've got perfect connection. My
Yeah,
camera's working,
yeah,
and it sounds all right. I just it seems that some of the elements are working with me. We were just talking about, I don't know whether you had the chance to hear it, about
yeah,
the whole the COVID vaccine, the 5G conspiracy theories, and I was just recalling because I'd heard it on James O'Brien's show that the people that supposedly um, Facebook has kicked off, like your
yeah.
Alex Joneses and your David Ikes, they're still allowing them back on Facebook and letting them like taking their money by advertising it through something called Gaia, like which is like a kind of I suppose it's like a Netflix for fruitcakes. I suppose is the best way to describe it.
Oh bloody hell!
Yeah,
That
yeah,
doesn't sound
exactly.
ideal.
Yeah, so it's like well, you can't be on here directly. What
Yeah,
if we basically let you kind of? But what I found is very clever is like what they're trying to get people in. They're trying to get in like the yoga mums on it. Um,
all right,
and
yeah,
it's like, and it's actually weird because it is a bit weird how things like the QAnon conspiracy kind of they uh they kind of latched on to both like the very hard right people,
yeah,
for the full on MAGA people, but they also got a hold of the whole holistic, sort of crystal healing,
Yeah.
Gaia Earth Mother crowd, and they both
yeah. It's
met
weird.
in the middle on the. Well, it's sort of weird. Uh, but somebody wrote, and I wish this was like profound quote that actually was real and came from somewhere that I could quote it, but um, was someone wrote on one of the things about it was like if you actually start telling yourself you don't believe anything, you know, to not believe in everything, you'll actually start to believe in anything.
Yeah, no,
So,
Yeah.
right.
like, the more you push
A
against just
vacuum.
basic facts and start to go, I automatically reject that because it came from a position of authority,
Hmm.
and then their version of thinking for themselves is, I'm
Their
going to listen
intent
to a
is obviously, something malice towards them
yeah.
personally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's a somebody on my feed. He probably knows who he is, but he's a tenuous connection. But he's an anti. You know, he's a COVID denier. He's a vaccine refusalist, but he's also a medicine refusalist. And we've also had an argument before because I was talking to Mr. Pearson about this. Actually, I was saying that I think that he likes being a contrarian for the sake
Oh, a
of
lot of people
being a
like that.
contrarian. Because
Yeah.
he will say there's no difference between a Lib Dem, a democratic socialist, and a Nazi because they're all in politics and they all
And they all
believe in
got
the
their
same
own
thing.
ideology and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's
So
Yeah,
he likes
exactly. It's
he likes
essentially it's
it's like
like
saying
if
it's
you
like
have
what's
an
in that.
ideology, yeah,
Yeah.
if you have an
yeah.
ideology and exists within the spectrum, you are therefore exactly the same. It's like so, putting somebody in the putting like literal Nazis from if you plucked a Nazi from 1940
40
and
or
then you
whatever.
put them
Yeah.
next to a 2020 like somebody from like the Bernie Sanders camp or something, he would
Yeah.
probably to your face say they're exactly the same. There's not an ounce of difference. I think is
Yeah.
incredible and of denial.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
Yeah.
like
That's like
this person wants to change that person's mind, and because of the color of this person wants them executed. It's a very it's like it's not like there's no difference.
yeah.
there's
It
no,
doesn't make
no
I
nuance
think
to them.
people just
no,
like have
there's
it
not
like
an ounce of
making
nuance. I mean,
I left the window
Christopher
open as a
Hitchens called
fly about.
himself a contrarian, but he wasn't so stupid as to go, "Oh, every politician's the same." He
yeah.
could stand behind some and criticize others. It didn't mean that he was like, "Oh, it's just all the same." I think, in all fairness, he's the kind of person that like takes hallucinogens like other people take Tic Tacs. So,
All right.
yeah, it's
Fraz
probably like the
frazzled
whole.
his brain a
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
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 Ever since I basically broke my brain, I've seen the truth. It's like no, it's probably
It's
because you
broken.
broke your brain. You're seeing anything but like there's a reason
You've
that
seen what you
we
want to
don't
see.
immediately.
Yeah.
There's a reason that we don't consult people who've had like mental breakdowns with psychosis over like right. So what did you see then? Because that's obviously like exactly what happened.
Mm.
And I'm talking to someone
Yeah.
who's literally watched someone have psychosis and without any drink or drug in their body has literally seen people in the room that are not there and been convinced of it
That's crazy,
and
isn't it?
been convinced they're hearing loud noises of people talking and there's not a sound to be heard. And it's like, so they're the people we're meant to listen to, is it? We can understand
Yeah.
them as
But
long
they're
as
the
they
ones that
understand that
want
they're
they kind of,
not seeing
it feels like
reality.
they want attention. Obviously
I think
they want
that
it.
could be part of it. It could be part of it, but I
Mm.
just think at a certain point they're like, it's like, but also the irony of like you're just living in fear. It's like, okay, take the vaccine. No, it's got things in it. It's like, well, what the
There are some
It's
things
like
that you need to be
my
fearful of,
my
like death
my
from
well, no,
favourite
it's,
COVID.
it's,
thing
like, it's
is
nothing to be
yeah.
fearful of. Open wide, fuckface.
Yeah.
It's like
Exactly.
it's like get that arm out. Clearly, there's nothing to be fear. You have nothing to fear but fear itself.
Yeah.
Hello, what? Dougal's getting a sex toy out.
But
What's
then
going
they're
on?
the ones that are scared of, homosexuals and trans people and, any ethnic minorities, or they're the ones that are scared of so much, and it's
No,
just.
no announcement today about the Brighton the change of dialogue in Brighton. It's
Did you
like
do
for a
like in
minute I sort
Brighton?
of heard it and I thought, oh god,
What's
this
this
is
one?
just like this is going to be the opening for. You not
Dukes,
heard this?
no? Dukes, you're in Brighton, aren't you?
Oh, this is about.
No, not
No,
Bournemouth.
I'm
What
in.
am I? Sorry, I don't know
No,
why I thought.
I'm in Essex now.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
in Essex
Oh
now.
okay.
Oh, you're in
Yeah,
Essex
back home in Essex.
now.
In
Cool.
Way,
Essex, back home and I.
way. Oh, in ye.
Yeah, I was meant to be
Hey.
going Holland for a bit, but that's been delayed for a bit.
Yeah, it's gonna be in it.
Oh, right. Well, no, the Brighton
Well,
it's the Brighton Health and Medical Centre. I think have said because obviously Brighton's quite a enlightened, quite progressive place.
Yeah, yeah.
They said that in certain like face-to-face, like pregnancy-based talks with patients, they're going to start using what do you call it, like gender-free nouns, gender-free like pronouns with. They're going to say instead of breastfeeding, it'll be chest feeding. It's instead of mother father, it's going to be parent parent. So they're going to use like as basically a sort of like genderless
As long as it doesn't do
terms
anyone
if
any
the person
harm,
wants it.
then I'm up for it.
No,
Well, yeah,
well
exactly.
that's
That's probably
initially
that's probably the
people
best.
getting angry about it, and
That's
it's
the
sort of
best
like,
way of
well,
doing
how
it,
does
though,
it
isn't it?
affect you?
Yeah.
Of course it
Yeah,
is.
it's the
like,
best way of
well,
doing it
it
because it's like
doesn't.
it stops everyone. It stops you going, oh, but that's not like when people the main figure go, that's not a bloke, that's a woman, blah blah blah. So it just stops that by just saying they, because it's not giving anyone a gender anyway,
Not that it
and it just
matters.
stops
Like,
any.
Exactly,
Oh,
yeah.
and it doesn't matter anyway, but
yeah.
it stops that whole thing of them going, well, that's a man who's a woman. As I would,
It's
like,
also it's something being done on a one-to-one basis. So why does it affect you?
exactly.
It's like it's not going to affect me anytime soon. I'm not going into a
No,
maternity ward, so
yeah,
and if it's
me neither.
and it once, but yeah, exactly. So it's all strictly one-to-one, and they said that they if they if they are say a hetero cis person who goes I'm a hetero person and I identify as the gender that I am.
Mhm.
Just call me what you like, then
I
that's what
don't.
they're going to do. If
I,
they say, "Oh, I prefer to be known as this," then they're going to call them that. It's like it makes no difference to anybody's life.
I don't know what their
Yeah,
obsession
exactly.
with
So
other people's sex lives, their
yeah, but it
identities,
seems to
other
be
people's.
seems
It's
to be
like
a big obsession with that. Yeah, I don't know why.
it's like
Well, I can
yeah,
tell
the
you that
whole
the
attack helicopter joke. It's so much bullshit. It's like Jesus Christ, like grow a pair. Like they're not
when it
trying to
boils
attribute
down to
themselves
it,
to
but
a
I think
object, are they?
it's if it has to get quite base, there's a great line that Lewis Black, who's one of my favourite comedians, very old, morose Jewish bastard, as he describes himself. He had a line, which is a simple line, and he was talking in the early 2000s about how we ended up going from Clinton to Bush. He said, if for those of you who were not in the know, Clinton got impeached because he received a blowjob. This offended an awful lot of people. This offended an awful lot of people who weren't receiving them.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of what it boils down to.
Yeah,
Is that
pretty much.
they say, oh, well, Robin Williams had the other best joke about
Well,
that.
it's like the
Which was,
incels, isn't it? They hate like females and all
what
that
I
kind of
find
stuff
interesting
because
about
they don't
incels
get.
is that
Like,
there's always like a sort of route back to what they publish, which is always it's always based on the premise of like, right, I can't get sex on the basis of my personality because I've got a horrible one. I've got shit all personal hygiene, and I'm obsessed with World of Warcraft rather than actually learning to look after myself. Why can't I get a girlfriend?
yeah.
So they work back. There's this sort of thing of working backwards from what if I make out that actually it's someone's duty to have sex with me because I can pretend as white people we're dying out. If you go to that whole
Oh,
white genocide thing, like
Oh, right.
if you go down to the nub of what they're trying to basically wangle is basically get into bed with someone because otherwise the human race, the white race
we'll
just
cease to
dies or
exist.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's like you've got to have sex with me because there might not be any, fat, white, sweaty
We
guys
might
left
die out
if we
somehow
don't.
magically. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I don't
a lot
know.
of their rhetoric is around like other countries kind of invading like the white Western world and all this kind of stuff. It's like it's just so far removed from reality. Like yeah, it's crazy.
It is. It's and yeah, and but it's like I think there's an element to it which is the whole not liking it when for the first time in your adult life there's a little bit of it applying to you type thing. When the boot is actually on the other foot, and the feeling of James O'Brien
They're
said
looking
that
down,
when
not up,
people
aren't they?
deny. Yeah, it was when people sort of deny that any kind of racism exists, and you can tell from their behaviours that they are a horrendous one. But there's an element to that is like I really don't want it to be acknowledged that I am because if my ancestors and me to an extent were willing to treat people of that kind like that, what they're going to do to me when they actually get the upper hand for once? Like
Yeah.
they're going to not hold, they're not going to pull punches.
Yeah.
They're going to treat me as bad as it's like treat others as you wish to be treated. Like, oh, if I've treated people like shit institutionally for the best part of several hundred years, maybe.
To be fair, a lot of
when
a lot of the right wing
kids
love
come
to
home
be
from
treated like shit, or let their
Yeah.
representatives like get away with treating them like shit at least. Like so, it
That's
kind of
probably why, that's probably why the Americans have such a big fucking fear of China. Not because they've treated China too badly in particular, but probably more to do with Vietnam, and because they can't clarify what like there's different countries in Asia, They just all put them under the same flag.
They don't want to
Yeah.
learn about it,
A
do they?
certain
They just want
generation, someone who
Western.
looks a certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like how. Like I don't understand where that comes from. I think it's more just a
The
fear
Koreans
of their.
as well. They had a war in Korea.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if you look at recent history, so there's the Americans fought the Japanese in World War II. They fought the Koreans. They fought the Vietnamese. Reasons at that point which they didn't really know, but I think the Vietnamese War. I think there was a general feeling that the tide turned on that because most Americans weren't for it, and there's more. I'd probably say there's more people who left that war not feeling malice towards the Vietnamese people, but more towards their own government for basically leaving them in the shit when they came back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They sent them out to a war that they didn't win. They then basically, I think it was a national feat after what they consider to be like centuries of victory. So for the first time ever, they're
Yeah.
going, we lost something. And not only did we lose it, we didn't get compensated or treated as kind of like we did our best. We came back. We got kicked out on the streets with no health care and we couldn't reintegrate it back into society because of what we saw and we got no help for
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
that's,
And
it's
you
like
got-
all those Vietnam War films, they were not made that long after the war had finished. And you imagine making like no Second World War films made in like the 20 years after, well, probably not even 30 years after the First World War, where
Bridge Too Far and all
real
that.
horror of it, yeah, like where the real horror of like how absolutely horrible it was is put on screen. It's very
Yeah.
much like we went over there and we whipped their asses and we did a grand old job and we were all laughing and singing our way through the war, and it was all gung ho. It was all lads on tour type thing.
Yeah.
In a way that
I
you
think.
2017 would not have been made in like anything less than 20 years ago, because it
1917.
just shows that it. Sorry, 1917. Sorry, I said
Yeah.
2017. Yeah, sorry,
That's like
2017. Well,
that
that
was a
pretty
bad
shit.
year, not
a
quite
horrible
as bad.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
pretty bad year all around. Up there with 2016. It's just too many good people died and too many bad things, happened.
Yeah.
So that, but it's like that whole glorification of war, and I think there's also an element to that mindset of the conservative that if you don't glorify war as something that needs doing, then essentially, I think they don't like the fact that vulnerability is being exposed in media with things like 1917 and people that the last and Burns documentary about the Vietnam War. People are going, yeah, it was horrible and we should never have gone. It's all regret.
Yeah.
It's not like people going, it's fantastic,
Well,
which I think is what.
Mm.
Carry on.
Yeah. That's the same as what they're doing with like the Afghanistan war and stuff like that, like in Iraq. All the soldiers and that come back now are like, why did we do that? We that wasn't a war for anything. We didn't find any nuclear weapons. We just ended up taking all their fucking oil. Like they feel like they've been duped by Blair and
Yeah.
what do you call him,
power
Bush,
vacuum.
just to get some oil. Yeah.
Bush,
It's
yeah.
not to the benefit
Create a
of the
massive
American
power
people.
vacuum,
Yeah.
where something
it was
that's
all,
like we're going
that
to
was all
defeat
because
terrorism.
they changed to petro-euro, wasn't it, instead of petrodollar. That's the real reason why they did it.
Yeah, well, that was
Is that right?
the same
That's
thing
one
with
of the
Gaddafi
theories.
in Libya. Like he was gonna make the gold dinar, and
That was
that's
mainly Iran, though, I think, wasn't it, that they invaded because of that
uh
petrodollar.
no, yeah,
Because it's
petrodollar,
more-
yeah, but obviously before
Yeah.
that it was Gaddafi and obviously it was only a couple
Yeah,
of
so he's
countries
saying
like
exactly the
North
same.
Korea, like Libya, and some places that don't actually accept or don't want to accept the petrodollar. They want to create their own, like the gold dinar which Gaddafi
Yeah.
created.
Well, I didn't realise that until like what was it? When was it? Last January. I went to when I was going to Holland to like see Luna when she got back. I woke up too late. I missed my fucking coach, so I had to get a taxi. And then the taxi driver was just taking me to Southampton Airport. Was just talking about it, like about that. And I was like, oh really? And then I looked it up when I came back afterwards. I was like, oh shit. Looked it up, and obviously like Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, and all them countries that we've invaded recently,
Yeah,
all wanted to change, or all had changed
surprise, surprise.
away from using petrodollar to petro euro.
Mhm.
Which
I know
makes
it is.
sense
So
as to why we was
technically-
involved, because we don't have our own. We didn't change our dollar. We didn't change ours to the euros either, which probably was one of the reasons why. And I hope that we'd get
With that, I mean,
the value up.
If that had happened, if they'd all I'm assuming have they all made the change, or was the change like a consideration?
I thought it had already happened. I'm pretty sure that was what they were going to do.
Well, I
they'd
think
already
it's
started to sell
I mean,
some
with that,
oil.
Yeah,
but
it
with that, I
plans to.
mean, sounds weird. Would that have strengthened the EU's position, or would that strengthen the EU's general like financial kind of credentials? Strange as that may
Oh.
sound.
I
It's
don't
like
know.
we were trying to
Probably.
very much align ourselves with if Trump had won, we'd be aligning ourselves with everything
America,
they
yeah.
had to offer, which probably would have been
Well, the
pretty
late,
shit because we need an ally.
well, the latest thing now is that what is it? Kanzuk they're looking at now, isn't it? Canada, Australia, New Zealand,
Oh
and
yeah.
Canada,
UK.
UK, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well-
basically, all the
Originally it was
former.
meant to. I think. Yeah, originally it was meant to use a USA, wasn't it? But I think ever since Biden's come in, that's been kicked out the window because Biden,
Yeah.
Biden's no fan
like,
of Boris
vocally
Johnson, and
hates
they've
him.
been
Yeah,
like,
It's
said it,
basically
you
all
know.
the
vocally
conservative.
hates
Vocally,
Johnson, yeah.
literally said, I hate your guts, you know. And
Yeah,
Kamala
Yeah.
when someone
said, "I
asked,
hate your
yeah,
guts."
when it's someone said asked Kamala Harris, and she was like, "Do you think I hate Biden? I hate Boris. You should listen to what Biden's got to say about him," which obviously doesn't bode well for the thing. So
Which I thought was
think,
so great when the Telegraph was just scrabbling for like anything that would make the Biden victory like something to be covered about. They said like his great grandfather left England for Ireland in the 1830s. So there's a tiny bit of him that might like the English. Like not if
Yeah.
his family lived in Ireland for the 100 years after that. I don't think
no,
they're
not
gonna
with
like the
not
English.
with that war going on. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Fucking hell.
And he doesn't, you know, the fact that because he's, you know, he's not, he's Biden, he gets shit for being old, and he's not what I wanted, but you know, he's better than
Trump,
the alternative. But yeah, and he understands geopolitically how important the Northern Irish peace process is because he's probably
Yeah.
got family and everything that are probably affected by it directly.
Yeah, I think
and,
I think they did say he's got family that live there still. Yeah, you know, like close relatives, not distant ones that he's still in contact with, and that's one of the reasons he didn't like the whole Brexit situation as well.
Yeah.
Brexit
I mean,
thing in the
Biden's
first
done.
place, yeah.
Well,
Or
Biden's
is
done
it-
quite a
is it
lot
'cause he's
already,
a
hasn't he?
globalist?
Yeah,
Compared to obviously Trump,
I-
renewing the Paris Climate Agreement, and you know,
yeah.
what's it?
Everyone calls him
I-
Sleepy Joe.
the
But
one-
he's off speeding around repairing everything.
Yeah, I remember
He's got a
reading
speech
that.
impediment. I mean, that's
What's it? Joe
basically it.
Biden was
Yeah,
well, basically, his stimulus checks were supposed to. Well, they're pushing for $2,000 for
He got 1,400.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And it's like, well, that was the first thing that he was throughout all the news stations. He's promoting that he was going to get the 2,000 check, but he was saying the 400 check after, is
Because he's got a bit of
It's a
an
bit-
obsession with reaching across the aisle to
yeah,
the point where the Republicans will just block anything good. But he doesn't need to do that anymore. That's the thing. He
Yeah,
needs to
'cause
remember that
it was such an
they-
easy win if he just gave him the 2,000 check.
reconciliation,
Like,
you know,
yeah,
yeah.
they've got the House and the Senate. It doesn't need to be. You can get anything they want done with just Democratic votes now. They don't need. It's not like in the olden days where it was always like a Republican majority in one bit and a Democratic majority in the other bit, or like always a Republican majority. For once in how long they've actually got they've got a Democratic majority in the Senate, they've got a Democratic majority in the House, and they've got the presidency. And not only that, they've got Bernie in charge of the the budget co-chair of the budget committee, so he can decide through budget
Yeah, that's good.
reconciliation that these
That'll
things
be really
happen,
good.
which is a very, very good thing.
That'd be really good for like climate change and stuff. I think the Americans are going to get a foot in their ass, a big shock. I think it's going to bounce back over it once they start doing their greenness. Because obviously Bernie's going to be focusing on making green energy for America, and I
Yeah.
think they're going to see
They
such
need,
a
they
rise.
need
in
a jobs
yeah,
program.
that's what I mean. I think they're going to see
They
such
need a
a
jobs
rise
program
in jobs.
like there's no tomorrow.
They're going to see such a big rise in jobs created from going green that you'll probably see a lot of the fucking idiots that are thinking Boris, oh, we can't go green, there's too much money, blah blah blah, and then suddenly seeing that and be like, oh, hang on a minute, maybe we can do it.
You know what I saw?
It's creating
of all
jobs.
Papers, and
Everyone needs more jobs now because of the pandemic. Fucking start doing it now then. Create
Yeah.
jobs.
The pandemic, yeah. Well, the effect is meant to have been worse than the 2008 recession. The job losses are way
Well, one of the
way
things
higher.
I
Yeah,
saw as well was that if you come out of a recession, one of the best ways to do it is from like sustainably, and one of the main ways of doing it sustainably is through investing in greener energy. Which
Green
is
energy. Well, look at FDR.
Yeah.
Who was-
look at what he
who
did.
was
You know,
it-
He created. If
was it
What was
Norway who created?
rest of all things are actually plugging a green energy scheme of all things.
yeah.
What
I
they
believe,
called?
like, I actually had to pick up the paper, which I would never touch with a barge pole, but I picked up was like, am I actually seeing the Daily Express of all papers pushing for a green scheme? They're the kind of paper that is read by the person who's still driving a 40-year-old like diesel banger and say, no, it's a load of rubbish. This global warming, don't need it. Technology don't need no improving ever. It's all just fine. It was all fine It's like whenever you dial that back, whatever those sort of people say, it just dial it back. Like the world was perfect when they were young and shaggable. Like the second they became kind of like horrible and ugly, that's when the world just progressed and it all got worse, mate. Like that, when you boil it down, it doesn't matter how good or bad things were. When they were young
Yeah.
and they were vaguely attractive and they could pull the birds, like that's
Ah, okay.
where they think the world was at its best.
Mm.
That's what it boils down to. And that's the Daily. The
Yeah.
Daily Express is just like the thoughts of that person put into print.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's why I thought it was amazing. I was like, the Daily Express is pushing for a green jobs drive. I'm
Well,
absolutely sure if Corbyn had suggested it, they would have been like,
hmm.
loony, environmentalist, lefty idiot. It's like, but now Boris is doing it, so now it's a good thing,
Well,
Yeah.
Denmark's
Well,
have
that's what
just
they do all the
created
time, innit?
an island for loads of wind farms recently. I don't see why, that's obviously a good step in the right direction. Other people should be
Ireland.
following. Denmark, yeah, they're creating island or landmass for the wind farms.
Really?
Yeah, it's 5 days
What
ago.
you
Yeah,
mean? So
yeah.
they're putting like land masses out for the wind farms to sit on?
Yeah, it says Denmark has planned to build the world's first wind energy island in the North Sea to produce enough green energy and electricity for 3 million European households. So yeah, the island, which will be the size of 18
Nice.
football fields, will be linked to 200 offshore wind turbines. So yeah,
This is
that's
very recent, isn't it?
yeah,
Blimey.
5 days
I'm
ago.
reading. Is this the Guardian article that you're reading?
This is the Independent I've
I've
got, but
just.
yeah, I think it's all over the
All right.
place.
Okay.
So
Oh,
yeah,
blimey! I've just seen a model of it. Oh, that looks amazing.
yeah,
Looks awesome. Due to be completed before 2033. 25 billion. See, like actually, when you boil that down,
Mhm.
that's in like government spending terms. That's not a lot of money. 25
No,
billion
not when you
yeah.
considering.
think about how much
Compared,
money they plow in when they plow
yeah,
into wars. Like,
Of course not. Yeah.
was it
I mean, it's
America?
like
Trump invested like 1.25 billion, a trillion, wasn't it before? Like, so just on that
something
they
base alone
spent.
ridiculous.
I
shows
think.
how much money.
I think if I believe it was on. It's something like in terms of being in Afghanistan, it's cost something like God knows how many trillion. I think it's like $2 trillion. It's cost to be in Afghanistan for 18 years. What has it got?
Yeah.
What has it actually
Yeah.
yielded?
That 1.25 was only like a
Increased the
yearly, wasn't
military
it? Like,
budget,
Yeah,
isn't
that's
it?
a year.
increase,
Yeah,
isn't it?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just like 1 year increase, and that was just an increase, wasn't it? That wasn't even the total amount. I think that was added on to what was already there.
Yeah. So they've already got like a set amount, and then they were adding to that on top. Actually, I think
Yeah.
Carl Kalinske, he did a video about how much has been, and this was at the end of last year. I think.
Klinsky's a bit
While they still
Marmite
had
to
a
me.
Trump.
Klinsky's yeah, he has some good takes, but some of them are a bit I don't know what the word is. He could have just thought about things a bit better.
Really, I tend to agree with pretty much most things he says. Actually, I think
His
I've
gender
been watching.
is a bit.
David Pacman. I've been finding has been
Yeah,
very good of
Pacman's
late.
really
He's
good. Yeah,
been
definitely.
doing some good stuff. The Rational National, he's good.
Yeah.
And over the fifth column, who I recommended last time.
Mhm.
He's been doing some great videos, especially the one about Let's Talk. Did you see the one which was Let's Talk about was it X amount of good things that Trump did and X amount of bad things?
Oh, I think so.
And he went through 14 points. And if you thought those were good, I've got some worrying news for you, because what you've just done is you've just agreed with the 14 points that constitute a fascist government. As in the Webster's definition of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
which I thought was like, ooh, because I didn't expect that. I was like, right, there's going to be some sort of payoff at the end of this video. What's it
Yeah.
going to be? And they was like, ooh, nice. And it's like, ooh, what a twist. It's the proper M. Night Shyamalan shit. But yeah, no, the green energy thing. I think America's gonna. I think if things go well, I think that it's good they got Bernie pushing things left, because the thing is,
Yeah.
have gone so economically, they've gone so far right over the course of 40 plus years. I think they just can't. There's a generation now so far removed from FDR and even Ike Eisenhower and JFK. Like even Eisenhower, who's a Republican, like he the kind of economic plans he had, he'd have been kicked off the Democratic stage. He'd have been to
Yeah,
the
definitely.
left Sanders.
Well, the
Which is
centre
what he
seemed
wanted to, the tax levels he wanted.
the centre
Well,
seems to have
because
shifted a bit.
He's not.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, they can make the green energy thing quite easily, because what is it? Elon Musk came out like a couple of years ago saying about how he wanted to build like a big solar farm on like in some like I can't remember what it was like. So it was somewhere in some hot country. Like it was basically wanting to build it in the desert where it's like sunny 24/7 along the equator.
You could
Yeah.
stick it in Nevada.
Yeah, they just wanted to put
You
it
could
somewhere where it's like daylight a lot of the time. And he said like if I can make it big enough, it will power the whole world. But obviously, you require like loads of governments to actually agree to it, and most of them have hands
Of
in
course, yeah.
pockets of
And the
oil and
infrastructure
coal and
is,
stuff.
yeah.
And
I
like
even
it's
think
not.
I even think oil has kind of realized that they can't hang on to that, like the denial, because like even like, I don't know whether you saw the programs about. I watched already this, it was BBC program. It was on iPlayer. It was about the Murdoch empire, about his press empire, and the fact that
Yeah.
he's the second that his they actually for the first time ever like his Sky News in Australia is very much modelled on the kind of Fox News model in America. They were actually getting
Yeah.
so much pushback because they said whatever you do, you have to push the idea that climate change isn't contributing to it, and actually it was left-wing activists starting the fires that started it, and it
Yeah.
didn't land. It didn't actually like it. It not only did it not land, but it got so much angry feedback from Australians of all political strands that they went not buying this shit anymore. Like they're actually not buying the fact that this is this is not the
Yeah.
this is actually they're not valid points, and we kind of know you're bullshitting now because you're just it's like
Yeah.
every time you've got to I think every time you've got to change the goalposts to make a bad point, you kind of make that point look worse.
Yeah, a bit
So
ingenuous and
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's the thing with,
Yeah.
especially now with how the pandemic has come and stuff, like where people obviously it's from like expanded into nature where they reckon it's coming from most, and where they reckon it's going to come from more, like coming in contact with more animals and stuff. That most of that's for making fuel or grassland and or like farming land. It's one of the two. It's either from trying to get to oil or trying to make land for farming more animals. So I think the main
yeah.
like green energy and stuff like solar panel power and stuff and like as the turbines, wind power and stuff is all going to be the rage for the next couple of years, especially with so many countries being in a recession. Like they're going to have
Oh
to
yeah,
look
yeah,
at different
definitely.
ways. They're going to have no
They're
choice.
gonna need
Yeah,
something.
they're going to have a choice because there's not much else.
Well,
Exactly.
People
because
aren't going to be
I mean,
willing to spend. The only thing people are willing to spend on, which why the housing market's gone up in England, is on doing up their houses because people are finding the value of a home more appealing than they used to because they're like, oh, I'm stuck because they've been stuck there so
and
long.
boy, is it rocketed.
They're
Yeah.
finding more value in it.
might as well make it pretty.
Yeah, I mean it's
I
bad
know
for
that
us
for a
because we
fact
can't
because
own a place.
I've been working for a fencing company, and they said that they were growing very gradually until the middle of 2020 when they just went through the goddamn roof with demand for fencing.
Yeah,
So because essentially it's people looking at the same patch of grass, the same bit of
Build
garden,
that
they go,
fence.
no, it's not. I build that fence. Yeah, we're going to build
yeah.
that fence. It's
There's
gonna
been
be an
people that've
amazing
been
fence.
putting it off and going down the pub every weekend, and then
Yeah.
the
Well, it's
missus has
mostly
gone.
they said it's
Oh,
the
get it done now. You can't go to the pub. It's shut.
Literally, yeah. It's the beleaguered husbands. It's
Yeah.
the beleaguered husbands. Like, well, you said you do this when we moved in, and that was 29 years
And
ago.
then
Like,
after
okay,
No
a couple of
excuse
weeks of
now.
being stuck indoors with the missus, they're all like, actually, I will go out and do it because I can't
fine,
put up
I'll
with your
go
nagging
outside.
anymore.
Yeah, I'll do it. Just leave me alone. Just stop talking to me for one day. God damn it, I'll get the fence done. I'll spend 12 hours with I'll spend 12 hours with a shovel and a hammer, and I'll do the damn thing. And the amount of people who are doing it themselves, like, you paying someone to do this? Like, no, otherwise I'd never have to get out of the house if I got someone else
Yeah.
to do it. I had
Well,
one guy saying, I said, I won't get a chance to leave the house if I get someone else to do it. Give me a reason to get out the door.
Yeah, the biggest one I've seen as well, like as well as gardens, obviously, has been like doing like people making their own bars and stuff in the garden, like
Why not?
converting sheds, converting garages and stuff. Yeah, that's like the biggest trend at the minute. Like,
Yeah.
it's one thing I want to do anyway as well. I wanted to do it long before this became a trend, but everything I see like lately, like it's just, oh, I've made this in my garden. I've made this in my garden. I've made this in my garden.
A lot of creativity coming
Like,
out of the pandemic, isn't there?
Yeah,
Like,
or like places like
DIY
I love
homemade.
it. At the minute, it's probably selling more.
Yeah.
You time to reflect upon, like, oh, I don't need this thing, but what I could really use is this thing. To which I
Yeah.
raised the question. I raised it on my Facebook earlier, which was, we see like a rise, let's say a 10-15% rise in people who used to have fairly standard office jobs, long commutes, early starts, late finishes, mostly because of the commutes and that sort of thing. If they actually have the chance to work from home, my theory is, and you can disagree with me or tell me why I might be wrong, that they'll want to go out more. get home, because there won't be that thing of, oh, I've just got
Yeah,
through the
it
door and
would.
now I've got to get dressed and now I've got to go out. The idea of
Yeah.
going out will be fantastic, because it's like, oh, I got a
Yeah,
chance to actually use the car once this week. I ought to go, yeah, there's something happening in the midweek in the evening. I want to
yeah.
go out because what have I got to get back in time for? Well, I'll get a good 8 hours
I think
sleep,
that would
whatever I
be.
do, you know.
Yeah, I think that would be a good thing. It would be a good thing in terms of like people that work in offices that can work from home. Like they say, like if you can work from home, work from home. Like if they kept that afterwards, you say like it will help loads of things. Like people will go out more to like pubs, theme parks and shit like that just to get out for the day. They'll actually go out and do stuff because they're stuck indoors all day in their
Well, a lot
house.
of people have just been
And
running on
then
their own and
also,
stuff, haven't they? Like,
yeah,
you know, just
yeah, yeah. Well, a lot of people live on their own as well, so they've spent their own company in
yeah.
the week. So in the evening after work, they're much more likely to go out and meet up with people and that rather than people they
You
spend
think
all day
about a
with.
load of people all working on their own, you know, albeit possibly talking to people on phones and whatever, and saying, "Have you tried turning it on and off again?" Okay, right. Well,
That's
yeah,
basically it,
go
isn't
to
it?
this file, open this, which is basically what a lot of it is. But the idea of like someone says, "Hey, we're going to go out to the cinema tonight," because I know that, you know, being being my early 30s, you know, that it's just trying to get your mates to go out on a midweek, let alone a weekend, is like there's
Yeah.
just so much organised. Oh, well, I might be
Yeah.
finishing work late that night, and then because I've not been around, then the missus wants me to have at least X amount of nights spent in because she hasn't seen me,
Yeah.
because we haven't seen each other, because we're all working. So that means I'm so tired I can't come out, but next time, and the next time never happens. You know, it never
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
So I think that the idea of like, you get a decent night's sleep, you walk 10 seconds to your workplace. You know, if you want to get up early and do exercise, go for a run in this better weather, you can do that.
Yeah,
If
you've
you
got
want to,
more time to do that. You've got more
yeah,
time to
Yeah.
do
exactly.
that.
If you
Haven't you?
live
So
in a
anything,
town,
if you're not
you know,
commuting,
yeah,
like
if you
around
live
here
in
in
a
Essex,
town, you can go,
I'm in
oh, I
Essex
can
at the
get
minute,
my errands
obviously.
done.
If you're going to, most people work in London, so like when they're not going to offices in London, that's like what, an hour at least commute that you've locked off. So they're just
Now
like
for me down
got
in
that extra time
Surrey,
in the
you know,
morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know,
Well, like
it took
that's
me
another
about an
thing that will
hour and a
come out
bit
of
to
it
get
as
to
well.
Waterloo.
Yeah,
It's also,
that's another
bear
thing
in
that will
mind,
come out
it's
of it
not
as well. It's like
even,
not.
you know, it's not just people jumping on trains. People who, you know, some people have got the mad commute of like they've got to drive and, you know, 45 minutes to get to a train, to then get
Yeah.
a train that then takes an hour, to then get on a tube that then takes 20 minutes. And then you do that twice a day. You spend tons of
Yeah,
money on it.
exactly.
So whatever money you've got that you're not spending on that, you can go down the pub where you can, oh, there's a little local music venue and they're putting this on tonight.
Well,
And it's a weeknight, you know, take it on.
yeah, well, it saves like like everyone says, oh, but businesses will pay you less. So why would they? Because it costs them less if they don't have an office. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
the cost of an
Yeah.
office in London over the course of a year costs less than all of their staff
Oh,
they probably will get pay rises.
If you
And
want
they
to have
still
a
make a
meeting,
profit,
do it in a
add more
hotel.
money. Yeah, and like what do you
If
call
you
it?
want to have a meeting, do it in
That
a
would help
hotel.
with like it would help with housing as well. Like 'cause you can just convert them to flats and shit, and there's loads more housing. I think London prices, especially like
I don't know
Manchester,
if they'll
big
do
cities,
that. Like
they're going to
Conservatives.
drop. I think they're going to drop price.
They'll find a way to
Yeah.
keep the prices keep going up.
Yeah,
They will
I
do.
think
They'll find like some. I mean, where I
I
live,
think
like
they might
because
be
you and me
forced.
technically we're in the home counties.
Yeah,
No, Simon's possibly out of it being in Hampshire. Are you in Hampshire at the moment still?
Yeah. Yes.
So if you're
Southampton.
in Hampshire, so that's technically wouldn't count as a home county, so you can't sell it off the back of it's an easy commute. Whereas you can,
yeah,
me and Dougal live, we're probably both an hour away from the same part of central London.
yeah,
So you can't really sell a house on the basis that it's near to London, because I think, quite frankly, if you've got to go in once a month, you'll get up just that little bit early once a month and drive in from,
yeah,
I don't know, Berkshire or Cambridge or Bedford or like East Sussex or something, you know, like if you have to, and then you do it, or you know, it's a good thing that it's not made everything. I've made the whole idea of everything having to be London centric bit
yeah. Well, I think that's
nine,
what's
you know,
going to help.
bit
Like,
redundant.
Yeah.
yeah, well, that's what I think it's going to help because obviously people are realizing they want, like, especially with the whole pandemic and stuff, or being stuck at home, they want to be in like a nicer surroundings. They want to go like further afield to countryside and stuff. I think you'll see countryside houses go up in value by quite a lot because a lot of people will be wanting them. But like
Yeah, great for
in
me.
places like London, yeah,
I'll have to literally move into the city to get a cheaper house.
yeah, I think that's what will happen because like if you look in London alone, wouldn't it? They said like 750,000 EU nationals have all left and gone back home. You think about the rental
Well,
market
there are
there.
already quite a lot
So
of
that's, yeah, you think about
houses
that
that
rental
want
market there. There's
occupied.
loads of people aren't renting in London anymore because they don't need to. Like,
Also,
and then you're gonna have
if they're being
the
owned
extra
by
buildings around as well. Like, there's gonna be so much excess that they're not gonna have anything to
space,
do with
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Oh,
And people
exactly. And if
people can just
by the
at the moment move
virtue
somewhere
of
else.
by the
Working from
virtue
home,
of
you don't
turning
have to
that
be
into
there.
housing, by the virtue of turning that into housing, they can't
Yeah,
then justify like, oh well, it's so scarce. It's like, well, is it? Because if you just suddenly
Oh,
instead of having to build more houses, you basically create a million more dwellings. You know,
yeah. Well, the best
we
thing
lost
they
him.
could do with that is
But
like the best thing they could do with that is like make the offices and all the new places that are available in London and like Manchester, big cities that people don't really live in anymore. Well, they're not going to be living in. They're already moving out to go like to outskirts. Is just make them like first home things. Get all the youngsters to come there. Like make it as a try and push the
you
young
mean like a start,
generations
make
to
them
live
starter
like a first.
home towns?
Yeah, like
well,
starter
the
hometowns.
Conservatives
Yeah, and
already
then
had
because
that
the
plan because yeah, they said that it's going to build 200,000 houses, weren't they? Was it
yeah, but he's
two
got to
years
make it
ago?
affordable. That's the thing. Like, because it's all well
Yeah,
and
they
good
just
like
didn't bother building them
doing
to
it, but you
begin
need to
with.
make it. Yeah. Oh yeah,
It's all
yeah. They were meant
talk.
to do that
Like,
originally, weren't
yeah.
they? Yeah. But like with an easy thing would be converting an office into a one-bed flat and having it as a first-time buyer.
Mm.
Like you could fill the
Actually
whole
making it
thing.
affordable.
Yeah, and if you make it affordable, you think of how many people, youngsters, will then go to like places like London and Manchester and stuff. They've got all these properties, all these businesses like pubs and clubs and cinemas and theatres that haven't been used for like a year.
Nighttime economy.
You can push up the economy by loads by having everyone there, and it's easy to police when there's more people in the same area rather than all being scattered around everywhere.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I think it's going to push against this idea of like the
Hey, Lady
work from home
K1.
thing. I think is going to smash. Oh, hi, Lady K1 from Canada. Hello. It's going to smash that whole idea of like there's been no desire to actually make any real change to how we live and just call people lazy if they do want it, because it's the description is always like, if you want to work from home, whatever, you don't want to get up and go out. It's like, well, yeah, but you know, when you got up and went out 50 years ago, you actually got your value for money in what you were compensated in your pay, and you don't now. They make
Yeah,
you an intern to
Mhm.
go and they demand that you work for somebody. I remember I was working with a girl who was working at the pub with me, and she was going to London for 6 months a year unpaid to get experience because she
Yeah,
was convinced there'd be a job at the end of
I
it. And
almost
then
took
she
up a
was
job
coming in, she
Yeah.
exactly
was
the same.
exhausted, working in the pub till midnight, getting up at 5. So she was maybe 4 hours, 4 and a bit hours after she'd driven home, 20 or 5 odd minutes away. And she's getting 4 hours sleep a night. She was having breakdowns all the time, but she was saying it was worth it for the experience and maybe she get a job. Like, what they're going to do is the second that they get rid of you for the, minimum amount that, they can keep you on until they have to pay you, they'll then get
yeah. Just
another
get
free
someone else
intern
in.
to go and
Yeah,
they'll get someone else in, and then you're not only you'll have the experience, but you won't have a job, and you'll actually probably be in debt because of the amount of money that you're having
Yeah,
to
to get there.
spend. And I said, "Are you getting in debt?" I said, "Well, actually, I am trying to figure out how to figure a hole in my budget because it's costing me so much to get out." They weren't even paying her expenses to go.
that's
It's
Yeah.
like,
ridiculous.
what is
Like at
this? This
least
is this is just
Free
that's a
slavery.
labour.
terrible
This is
company.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's poor. Like
it's
even like
awful. I think it was like, I'm not going to lie, I think it was like Deloitte, one of those big like banking things.
Sounds about right.
It's like they're
yeah,
so
wouldn't
obsessed. It's
surprise
the
me.
obsession with the prestige of the company that they'll actually overlook the fact that they're basically being used as slaves. Like, I don't care. You have a fucking Goldman Sachs say they want to give me an experience. Like, fuck you, Goldman Sachs. Give me some money. I don't want the
Yeah,
experience. You got plenty of all
exactly.
of
Yeah,
our money
Oh,
from 12
close
years
the
ago.
window.
Give me some of that shit back.
Mm.
yeah.
And then I won't work for you. How do you like them apples? So, but yeah, I think it's that thing. It's going to be like, right, well, you've seen how people work at home. They get more stuff
yeah,
done. They're happier. They're saving more money. They're being better for the
Spend
environment
more time
because
with the
they're not getting in
family
a
and
car.
yeah.
Yeah, they've got more time with their families. They're not getting in a car that they can ill afford. They're having to get on finance. So then they're basically, and it's like you can probably afford at that stage to maybe get a 10-year-old second-hand car because you don't need it to be reliable every single day of the week. If you only drive it a couple of times a week or something, more
mm,
people going out for walks. It's better. I mean, it's driving me bloody nuts because it's like you can't go out for a walk anywhere on the hill near me without half of southwest London being there. Like all of
yeah,
Twickenham and all of Twickenham and Kingston is there en masse in the Volvo 4x4s and the Prada bags and the UGG boots and all that sort of thing. Is like local walk my ass. You're all very much Londoners. This is not local for you.
No.
I don't know if it's the it's the very periphery of that 5 mile limit. 45
yeah.
minutes for a queue on Leith Hill Tower to get a cup of coffee. You literally just used to be able to like walk up to the counter at any time and you could get straight there. That is how, and that's at its busiest in the summer. I'd walk up there and be like, oh, there's a few people up here. Now it's just walked up there, and there are so many people. It actually feels oppressive. Like the amount of children that are just like walking around. It's like, get off me! Like, oh yeah. Like, yeah, mommy. It's like, these horrible little shitty kids everywhere. And it's just, and it's because it's all they can do because they can't do anything else. And I think what they actually
Yeah.
probably used to do is go to DFS and get a sofa on finance that was like 0.5% less than it was last year, or something, and trade the old, drag their husbands around IKEA every fucking Saturday. It's like, isn't this fun? It's fun. It's like, oh yeah, it's fun. Yeah, great
Yes,
time. Yeah,
fun.
love
You
it.
said fun. Yeah,
And
definitely fun.
now it's just, I've never once found it enjoyable. I don't know what kind of sociopathic, sadist, masochist you have to be to enjoy buying furniture that you can't afford. Like, really, it's like, it's furniture. It's not meant to be fun. It's meant to just be. You're just meant to kind of, you're meant to buy it and then fix it and then sit in it or sleep in it or eat off of it. It's not meant to be an experience.
Mhm.
IMAX is an experience. IKEA is just fucking furniture.
Cool.
Anyway, rant over. What does everyone else think?
What in terms of what subject do you want
The
to
work from
move
home
on to?
thing and how much I
Work
think
from
it's going
home?
to. I reckon it very much
I mean, I
change the
think
dynamic of
a lot of companies already gone
economy.
that route, haven't they?
Yeah,
Like,
well, Twitter's already said it, haven't they? They've already said they're not going to open their headquarters in Silicon Valley again.
yeah,
They're going to sell up and keep everyone working from home, which
Why
makes
not?
sense because it's so expensive to rent there. Like,
it's just more efficient,
or
like in
Yeah,
a lot of
exactly.
ways. Obviously, there's other things that come into play, like obviously boosting mental health, programs and stuff like that is going to probably be a bit paramount, due to the fact that a lot of
yeah.
people are going to be on their own and stuff like that.
Well, I think we're going to see a similar thing to what we see after the war. Of like, obviously the Tories have been in charge now, and they were in charge during the war, and then straight afterwards they were voted out because the
Labour got in.
people
Yeah.
wanted a socialist kind of
People
thing to
wanted,
look after, like rebuild and stuff, look
yeah.
after the people and try and rebuild. And then we'll probably end up voting them out again because that's just how
Oh,
it
I
went
just don't
last
want it
time.
to be
And then they
Keir. I
got
just
back in
don't
again
want it to be
afterwards. So it's like,
Keir. Please not
I
Keir.
know. It's like, oh,
For fuck's sake.
I think it will be, unfortunately.
We've got a
I think
window.
it's
will
going to be in
but
it.
it's better than nothing.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I
better.
know.
It's
The
going to
lesser
be,
two
it's going to be
evils.
better
Better
than
than the
nothing.
alternative.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
But the whole
the Lib Dems are just not. There's no point in them
I'd love to
existing.
see a
But there
whole.
wasn't really much.
I'd love to see the whole thing that this is just a facade, and then as soon as he gets in, he brings Corbyn back and puts him in charge like Bernie is for Biden.
I think it
just
could
out of
be.
nowhere, just
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
Corbyn's back, guys.
Hmm.
The
It's
second
like-
he's back in, it's like, I'd like to introduce you to my VP, Mr. Corbyn.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
thanks for letting me back in, K-Dog. Yeah, thanks for getting rid of me. Like, yeah, how do you like me now, fuckfaces?
Health Secretary Diane Abbott, like just brings all of them back, like.
and Rebecca Long
Yeah, people
Bailey.
who are controversial just for the sake
Yeah.
of it, just rub it in their
Yeah.
faces.
I can't believe
mean, it's
that
got-
they let
there
Rebecca
was-
go over that
Reading
post.
a thing, which was about, I think it was like one of those questions posed website. I think it's something called Curia. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Cura,
Like, I
yeah,
signed up to it
yeah,
ages
I've heard of that, yeah.
Curia, yeah, I'm probably pronouncing it badly. And someone's saying that why is it was one of those
Cura,
questions
is
where
it?
the person probably knows the answer already and is just posing it to start a conversation. But the question was, why is in a country where when you poll people about
Yeah, Cura. Yeah.
what they actually policies they want to see done, why is there always a vote for like the party that doesn't want to do any of them and doesn't want to change the status quo? And they said generally that's an age ratio thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
X% of the population is over a certain age. We've almost got to wait till there's more of the younger population, but once they hit like plus 55% is like under 60, because the amount of people we've got because of the baby boom, let's face it, the post-war baby boom is why we've got an immense amount of people of a certain age who are all born between the age like between 1945 and 1965. They're all between 55 and 75. That's the biggest, say, demographic in the whole country because there were just more of them born.
Yeah.
So the second you flip it and you turn that to people under 55, or once you've got more younger people than you do older, once you've got more people in X age bracket than Y age bracket, that's when you suddenly have a vast political change.
Sorry to say it,
Well,
but
that's why
coronavirus is
Corbyn
going to
wanted-
help that out,
Yeah,
isn't it?
so yeah, if anything, the Tories have shot themselves in the foot by fucking up this whole pandemic.
And
Yeah.
letting
Most of
everybody,
the older
by letting a
generation
lot
that are
of their,
dying.
Well,
Yeah.
other
yeah,
than
their
the money
base-
that
yeah,
they're
a lot
giving
of
away
their
to the
voter
mates.
base go to the dogs.
Yeah.
And also their voter base, the ones that haven't died are the ones that are going, hold up, you ain't done fuck all for us.
Yeah,
That might
yeah.
change their vote in the
There's a
future
lot
as
of
well.
imagine
Like,
all about all the self-employed people, the supposed
oh yeah,
party of
yeah,
small business, and got totally fucked over.
Well, all the coal
And
miners and
those
stuff like that,
people
they
were like,
didn't get
"Well, you
their
offered us
money,
nothing," you know.
their
yeah,
retirements and stuff like that.
Million musicians and artists got nothing. I
yeah,
was one of them, but that's only because I had another job. Back it up. But I know people whose one and only job, and they've been into the tax coffers for, I don't know, up to 10 years. Some of them, possibly more. Nothing back because they're not
yeah, and
considered. It's like so.
Yeah.
I put the same amount of tax in. I possibly put more in than Jeff Bezos has in his entire years of operating over my 10
yeah,
years, and
It's not
yeah,
only that; it's like the
precisely because I've got the wrong sort of job.
yeah.
yeah, like the
It's
visas and
mad.
stuff like that. That we have to
Side.
go to Europe to play and stuff like that.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, if any, that on top of
Oh yeah,
Brexit
that's
as well,
gonna
yeah,
exactly.
it's made
It's
it even harder.
that's
yeah.
massively that is massively messed us up. Well, I
What's
mean,
it?
we're quite
Daltrey was.
lucky.
Oh, go on, you go.
New the new obviously it will affect me. For what we were doing with the rock band. We actually had a big meeting on Zoom with the new managers because I'd never met them before. They were literally we would they were brought in as the lockdown and the whole thing started, and they actually have had to register a company in Belgium to make any of their European tours work. They've had to do
Yeah,
exactly, and they did that well ahead of the curve. They did that in 2019, I believe, because
Okay.
they
well,
just knocks heads, and it's a sensible thing. And I think what they've said is that can't send any of their technical people over to there when we tour. So the way to do it economically is to just send the musicians on their own and give them to technicians who are EU nationals. They can't, like you
yeah,
said, sending the technicians over is a nightmare, let alone sending musicians over. But it's easier to send musicians over if you've got one foot in one door and one foot in the other door. If you've got two companies on both sides of the gap,
Hmm.
that's what's going to make it easier. But of course, they're clever. They've been doing this for 40 odd years. They've
Yeah,
got the
yeah.
hindsight to have made that decision. A lot of people have meant well, but also thought Brexit was a good idea and been lied to and been told that nothing would change. And
We got
now they are up the shit creek because they now can't do anything to change it.
yeah. You got all the
They have
well, it's
fisheries
to
big
as
like,
well
business.
that have been
Well, it's
put out
big
of
business
business.
as well, isn't it? You got
it's
like
massive
what's it, the
business.
owners of Top Van and stuff. Like
Yeah.
they're all gone bust, and they're selling up to ASOS, who are like European-based company, aren't they? And like Debenhams
What's the
sold
company
up
that's
to
bought
ASOS as
Debenhams?
well.
Is it Boohoo?
Is it?
ASOS or Boohoo, one of the two. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was one of them
I
two.
think
They were both.
Boohoo
I think they're
bought
both based in
Debenhams,
Europe, aren't they?
which have
They're both
only
EU
since that was
EU based.
announced. Yeah, well, since that was announced, I did see that there was a litany of people going, "Boohoo are the worst clothing, retailer I've ever had the misfortune to ever buy or own from." So that doesn't bode well for a lot of
Yeah,
retailers. And of course, what they're doing, so they're buying. It's not even it's barely anything to be celebrated. It might, I mean, they'd probably be better off knowing Debenhams was going bust rather than actually being bought out because they said they're not going to keep on like any of the staff. So it's a
yeah. They've
double
not.
Yeah.
Well, they've
loss.
not. They didn't buy any of the actual stores, did they? They bought. They just
No,
bought the stock and the name,
bought the stock.
basically. They've
Yeah, so they've basically bought the one thing that can't form a union, which is
yeah,
the workers are just fuck the workers. We just buy all the stuff that we can sell,
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's that whole thing of which you go like people who keep libertarians, for example, when they keep banging on about how the free market works brilliant. It's like you've just seen the free market in action there, and it decided to make everybody unemployed. Like there's
yeah,
not been like a as you've said, I think it is going to take this whole just to get people back in track. The one and only benefit of Brexit is that needing 50,000 more customs officers in Kent probably going to be a
Oh.
big boon for
yeah,
Kent's
yeah,
economy. So
Yeah.
if you've got a little cafe off the M20, you'll be making money hand over fist. And if if
yeah,
you're selling houses in well, it's because it's interesting because when I was delivering for you see a lot of this when you're working in the building trade. When I was delivering to Kent, there were so many housing developments being made in Kent, and actually I sort of thought all I'm doing is just delivering to Ashford and Tonbridge and Broadstairs and all that. So I said, why are all these houses being like? Why is there so much building going on here as
yeah,
opposed to elsewhere? I said because we're going to need it here after we leave, because we are
yeah,
going to need so much of a workforce to they are going to need so many they're going to need to take so many people, possibly have to entice them out of better jobs come and work here as customs officers because it is that much of a shit show. That's the amount of effort it's going to take just to maintain, not even to like a lesser state. That's going to maintain what you've already got in terms of import export, and it already went to shit over Christmas. But there was umpteen excuses as to why it was the EU's fault and not ours. It's like, despite the fact that, like, well, no, it's our decision, and we left it in the hands of our leaders, and that was the deal they came up with.
Loose
So
term
at
there,
what point
leaders.
does it become?
Yeah.
At what point do you just admit it's a failure? You know.
Yeah, well, it's the same. It's the same with the fish stuff, isn't it? Like they're going, "Oh, we voted for Brexit."
Which was the one.
We were
saving
promised
grace.
this and that.
Yeah.
Yeah, which didn't.
But
which
we
didn't
all
right,
know
which
not to
didn't-
trust
which
them.
didn't
I don't.
even-
That didn't even.
I know, yeah. And they're like, "Oh."
Everyone
we-
knows not to
like,
trust him.
anything
we were
will say
He's been
rubbish.
fired. Boris been
Yeah.
fired from
Yeah,
his
it's
job
like
what
weird.
3
It's like-
times for lying or some shit. Like, damn.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like I don't understand how they fell like all the time. How many times did it take for someone to get into office
on it,
and
though,
then
they've-
go back
they've-
on their word and then still do
well,
it?
it's just
Like,
an Eton boy, and he's gonna get in there
Yeah.
no matter what. So,
well, pretty much the whole of the
Look,
government
Kia
that
got
was
a
from
good
the
jab
same
in today.
club, weren't they?
what was that? Sorry.
Kia got a good jab in today. Did you hear what he said? He said, "I'm not going to take any moral lessons from a person who writes 2 different articles for every issue of the day in the Telegraph, depending on which way the fucking wind's blowing."
Yeah, yeah.
And we said we've all heard what it said. The supposed party of business would be wise to remember what its leader said when said what effect Brexit would have on business, because we all remember he said "fuck business"
Yeah.
on literally on record.
Well, the
Yeah.
Conservatives brought out what's it a document, to the Conservative MPs saying, like, make sure you say
Use
the right
Trumpism.
thing at the wrong. Make sure you don't say the right thing at the wrong time, but you can say, like, the wrong thing at the right time and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, how would they?
That was the Wellingborough Conservative.
That was
something
it.
or other.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they
Yeah.
basically said, copy what Trump does. Say completely non-tangential things.
Gibberish.
Like when
Yeah.
someone brings you up in it, just call them a socialist or something, and it will work. So, but I think that they pulled back on that now because, well, less or so before
Because
the
they got found
Capitol
out.
riots, they were still playing on that, and I think after that they went, you know what, we can't really. Let's
Justify
just
it.
all pretend we never liked Donald Trump and we never heard of him, and we definitely didn't interview him in a room with Rupert Murdoch present with the, with Michael Gove.
Oh,
Basically,
did Boris and everyone
getting
have
a very brown nose.
a meeting with Rupert Murdoch this week? I think, did it? Boris.
Yeah, I
had a
saw that.
meeting.
Was that on Byline Times?
Yeah, Byline Times, yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty good. That. But I'm sort of interested. Well, this is all because isn't a lot of this to do with the fact that is it GB News and News UK, which are both coming out in sort of April and May. They're like going to be Freeview right-wing news channels that are going to work. And I think they said they're going to work around fairness thing. East around like they're going to find some kind of like loophole to mean that. I think it's like as long as they control the narrative, so they'll start it off on a right-wing talking point, and they'll get somebody they consider to be left-wing or opposing view on, which means that they can use the talking point as the jump-off, and then work backwards from there. But it's like,
they're
because,
using
of course,
they're
with
using the same
8% of
premise
print
of
media.
Yeah, they're trying to use the same premise of what they do on Fox News, where they try and rather than state it as news, like some programs within the news channel don't specify that they're news in the title, so they get away with.
I think it's got to be eight or so, 8 to 10 hours of daytime. It has to, I think there is a rule that says everything in the daytime must be actual, and that was that Shepard Smith guy was actually the only guy of any kind of, and he left because he said it is just a lie factory now, and I can't be a part of it. He did actually have news, but he was actually opposing his own program, saying Sean Hannity is talking utter bullshit, literally like 4 hours before he came on the same network to tell him that, I'm not talking bullshit and I'm going to make more bullshit up. So I think that what they're going to do is a lot of that questions to which the answer is no. Any headline, which is the Betteridge law, any headline that ends in a question mark is probably usually answered by the word no. But it's like when Obama was in, everyone was like, is Obama an atheist Muslim space communist?
Yeah.
It's like, he isn't, and they never say he is. But
they just always
already
ask
put the question. Ask the question, plant the thought in the viewer's mind, and then it won't be a case of, oh, he said so and so, and then if they call,
Then
you
have
on
a
it, you
few
go,
articles
no,
out
I
on
never
the
specifically
internet,
said he
like
that. Never
Well, it's
specifically
the same-
said
it's
that. I just mentioned it. I
it's like the same
posed
with
it as a question.
what was it? It's like what
It's
I showed
accountability, isn't it?
yesterday or
That's what
something
they're
on the thing. Yeah,
dodging.
where they say like what the Daily Mail posted, like saying, where was it? Hang on one sec. Where Daily Mail posted about like saying lorries not being able to get in, like the Dutch officials blocking lorries from getting in when they can easily go through Switzerland or something, or Swiss ones can easily get in and they're not part of the EU either.
That's
But
because
then they
they've got
failed to mention that
They
they've
are
it's
actually
in the
got a
part of the
trade. Yeah, they're
European
already
Economic Area, yeah, and it's not part. It's well, and it's
yeah,
part of the Free
exactly.
they've
Trade
got a trade
Association and
agreement.
part of
That's
the
it, free trade
Schengen area, which you
association.
can use it.
Yeah.
They're in
So
Schengen.
it was
Yeah,
like,
they're just not in
so
the
there
union.
was like, so the title they put up was misleading and making it, oh, we're just being mistreated, when in fact
That's
it's because they didn't get the deal they were meant to
yeah.
fucking get or promised.
It's
That's
So
the
it's
whole
lying
just
by
rhetoric, isn't it?
it's lying by
it's
omission, basically.
it's like
Lying by so it's like
you're
I
not
don't
adding
have to
everything.
explain it fully. Yeah, I don't have to explain it
Let
fully, but
other
I
people
can
connect the
kind of like
dots.
Yeah,
yeah.
Mm.
I mean, they know what the
Because
answer is. They know what all the reasons are. But as long as they've got to sow doubt in the reader, in the readers or viewers'
well, that's the trouble
minds.
with tabloids. Like that's one good thing about like the population now and the things going online. It's both a good and bad thing because obviously there's less printed
Just as
news
much,
being bought.
yeah.
So but it
And I
means
buy
it's
the
all
Observer
online.
once a week. I buy the Observer on Sunday because it's like the Sunday Guardian. I think that's fairly good. But and what I did
Yeah,
notice is that their massive like misstep was do notice that like there's an element of the sort of that kind of left where they can be left on all social issues, but when any kind of economic justice is performed by a union or whatever, or GameStop, for example,
Oh,
the whole
we'll
GameStop
get onto
Reddit
that if you
yeah,
thing,
want.
and
yeah.
the guy and the guy in the Guardian said, "Oh well, this was a reactionary effort by neo Nazis and racists because neo Nazis and racists use Reddit." Like, so does
What?
everybody. Everybody uses Reddit. How
I
could you have
thought
missed the
4chan
point?
was more their thing. Like,
Yeah, but it's like saying like a load of people get together and do a good thing on Facebook, but because there's an InfoWars page on Facebook, that automatically means it was done in. It's like it doesn't. It's not. It's like guilt by association. So
yeah.
how is that good? If you guys
Yeah,
talk amongst yourselves, so I'm going to quickly go through a Waz, but
Yeah,
yeah,
no worries.
no worries.
carry on.
It's
So,
just like all the newspapers and stuff doing all this like misleading stuff. Like, what was it? There's one near that said the Telegraph said experts have warned that restrictions on large gatherings could remain in place for the next few years, but they didn't warn that. They just asked them a question, and obviously experts say what they think is possible. They don't say, "Oh, definitely no."
yeah.
They'll be like, "Oh, it's possible because of this," and that's all this one of them said. It wasn't like experts either. It's not plural. It's one of them.
Of course
One
not. It's
professor
not
of
going to be, is it?
epidemiology
Like, they're
was
going to
talking
pick
on a
and
radio
choose.
show. Like,
Yeah.
was talking on a radio show. Was asked, "Is it possible that we could have like
Yeah,
large
anything's
gatherings be banned for
possible.
the next few years?" He went, "Well, yeah, it is possible, but if we get under control, then it's not. Then
Yeah.
it won't happen." Like, it's just ridiculous shit like that, and it's just putting fear. They say it's Project Fear for us, but like
Oh,
for
they're
like when the whole
constantly.
Labour thing, but like if anything, the COVID one's been worse. Like Project Fear for that, like
Yeah. Well,
always saying like
anti-maskers, that they're all in well, that's the kind of more of a conservative backed theory, isn't it? The anti-maskers, anti-vaccines, and
yeah, which
5G.
makes it yeah. It's like oh yeah, the 5G one's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah.
5G masters causing everyone to get COVID, even though 5G isn't in place in most of the world.
It's
Like,
crazy.
it's not even in place. It's not even in place here in Thurrock. Like,
Yeah, it's just
it's not even. They're
purposeful
not even up yet. Like,
misinformation, isn't it? Like, so did
yeah,
you buy
it's
anything
like
into GME or anything like that?
what in GameStop and stuff.
Mhm.
No, I couldn't. Well, I can't get my head around the apps and stuff that we use. And obviously, by the time I
Oh
caught
right.
wind of it, Robin Hood thing was
Yeah.
stopped letting you buy stuff on it.
Oh no.
I was tempted.
I used T 212, which is like a trading platform.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
I've
I
seen
got
that
in
on there.
on
I can't really get my head around them.
I got in on GME and on AMC, and quite
Oh,
a
nice.
few
I
other
missed that.
ones.
Did you guys get some? Did you guys get some stonks?
I did. I got some
I
stumps,
didn't know.
and I got
How
out.
much
I
are they
got
worth?
out.
I really wanted to.
No, I got
Actually,
basically
really wanted to.
what?
How
No,
much profit do you make out of selling it?
well, on GME I lost a little bit because I saw it going down. I was like, I'm selling before it goes all the way down.
Yeah,
Um,
because obviously people were starting to sell by then. Then
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
guessing.
definitely. I mean, I thought that it was going to be like everyone else did. It's going to be a kind of a people's kind of company, and it's all going to work out and all this that and the other. But then obviously you start reading into it a bit more, and you're like, hold on a minute, is this
Yeah,
actually, because they said that they basically got all their stocks back and sold it all and all that. So Yeah, I mean,
Open the app. I don't know what I missed while I was out, but they. I think what was
they
brilliant
stopped on
about
the
it is
on
it
the
was
platforms. They stopped like retail, like actual people like trading. Or sorry, they stopped them buying it, buying stocks because of the margin that they
sucks
had
when the
to put down
shoes
for
on the
them.
other foot. I believe is the
Yeah,
now
that's when
I
everyone
think the
kicked up the
words are
fuss, wasn't it? Yeah, there was.
now you know how it feels. It's like, well, this is what you've been doing to like all
Yeah,
small businesses and small companies for donkey's years since you've been
yeah.
allowed to do it, and now it's being done to you. Oh, but like the first thing I thought of was the the "It's Always Sunny" meme template where they've got like the um Charlie and oh god, I've forgotten the one you look like
Snoopy,
Dougal.
Matt.
Charlie, and what? What from
Yeah,
what?
Matt.
In Always Sunny, Charlie and Mac,
Oh,
where
Mac,
they're doing the
Mac. Yeah.
oh, did somebody like the
Oh
sort of the
yeah, it's
boo
like
hoo thing and like oh, did somebody get annoyed because the same thing that you've been doing to others has been done to you now?
yeah.
So
Like
I was like,
my
that
thing
was
I
that
found weird as
perfect
well was
meme
like
template.
It has
with that it
got.
was weird that like the tabloids and that were posting like, oh, this investor or what they called fucking stockbroker, whatever his name is, stock trader,
Hedge
has
Robin
hedge
lost
Hood.
like
funders.
hedge fund, yeah,
Yeah.
hedge
Oh, hedge
fund
fund, yeah.
owner has lost like billions, and everyone's going, oh, he's lost billions, poor him. And I'm like, how do you think he got those billions in the first fucking place? He probably robbed them off like hundreds of
He
thousands
bet
of
on
people over the
companies
years.
to fail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and
he's been
shorten
betting
them.
on
He put like
hundreds of thousands of
probably put
companies to get that
millions of
much.
people out of work. Yeah, he
Hmm.
put millions of people out of work because they have a system where you're allowed to bet on companies failing for a whim
Yeah,
for money, and all of a sudden he's the fucking victim. Give me a fucking break. Like honestly,
yeah.
it's
Well,
like
Yeah.
it's a corrupt. It
it's mad.
shouldn't be a practice that's allowed to happen.
It's got
But
a
they
lot of
don't
people into
contribute.
No.
stocks
These
though. I
people aren't
mean, as
contributing.
a silver lining, I myself have
Yeah,
now got into stocks, and all my stocks that I've invested in and that are doing really well at the moment. I'm in like Disney and Tesla and
yeah.
Apple.
The
I've
best.
got
Well,
Google,
Disney, Tesla, them lot are good to
PayPal.
go into it, and then anything that's well, obviously Tesla would be one of the ones that's green. Anything that's green
I'm
is
20
Like
going to
quid
if
up
be.
at the
if it
moment.
says Elon Musk set to make announcement, it's just like buy because
Yeah,
no,
because
he's
something's gonna.
wasn't he said like him
Yeah,
and because Jeff Bezos now wants to go into space exploration. Now he stepped down from leading Amazon.
yeah.
Funnily enough, just as they're about to get their first unionization
I know,
loss.
right?
So that, like the union in Alabama is about to win, like possibly win some working rights for the first time, and
Yeah.
that's probably enough for Jeff. He's probably like, I don't like not
The way this
playing
is going,
anymore.
this
I'm
is the
gonna
first step.
leave.
Yeah,
I don't
Yeah,
to
not
doesn't
the
want to see
playing.
the
They're
demise.
next
not
step.
letting me play. Yeah, he doesn't want his name. I think yeah, he wants to. It's like the whole did anyone ever see Fun with Dick and Jane?
Yeah, that's with
Yeah.
Jim Carrey. Yeah,
That was
Yeah,
based on Enron, was it? It was based on a real company where they just like they knew that they were about to collapse, so they gave a guy a promotion just as they knew it was
yeah,
all
and put it all
about
on
to
him.
like blamed it all on him. Yeah, essentially, yeah.
yeah,
And then at the end of it, they mentioned it's the bloke who used to work with him is now working for a company called Enron, who I think the year after that's meant to be set in like 2000, 2001, like collapsed because essentially they were taking money for not doing anything whatsoever.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
there's a bit of irony on that one. So I think that possibly he wants to, get out before it looks bad for him to leave, or maybe he wants to get out because it would mean he's got to make a statement if they unionize. He can't just let it sit, and then that becomes the new guy's problem.
I mean, he
yeah,
could at any point, he's made so much money in the last what 5 years. Like it's
Yeah,
just well, yeah, even one
he's
year.
made he's
Yeah, yeah,
made what is it
definitely
twice?
double.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
last year
hasn't he
alone.
made like twice his fortune?
yeah,
Everything he lost in that divorce, he's made back with more. And they say
yeah.
that if he's currently on
Bet she's
track,
kicking herself
if he
now.
stays like making the amount of money that he does,
Yeah, they
let me
reckon
think.
he'll
I
be the
can't remember.
first
I saw his
trillionaire, don't they?
billionaire, yeah.
Yeah.
It's either him or
I think they
Musk.
said it.
They're
Well,
like, it's like
Musk
a
is
head
number
head
one at the
race to
moment.
see which one of them's going to get there.
Yeah, Musk is
Yeah,
number one, I think,
Yeah.
at the moment.
yeah. But it's a race between
The
the
thing
two.
is, the
Who's
thing
going to
is,
reach
what
trillion
people
first?
always forget about Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos is they are not fucking rags to riches stories. They both had
No.
exceptionally wealthy parents, like
Yeah,
and they were given so much money as kids and young people. They were
and the
like they
connections,
were given the
obviously.
kind of I mean, like they were given the kind of thing to start a business, like the kind of money that you could buy a mansion with and live off the change for the rest of your life and not do
Yeah,
anything and spend it
Yeah.
foolishly. And they were given that to throw into a business. Like and it's like, yeah, it's all the American dream. It's hard. Like, it's not. It's absolutely not any of that
Yeah.
shit. It's like,
Nah, we-
somebody like Marcus Rashford. I think that's the reason why people hate him, because he actually is a proper rags to riches story.
rags to riches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not only is he a rags to riches story, he has a
Integrity.
moral fiber.
Yeah.
And he's done it
Yeah.
apolitically. And what he's not made it. Funnily enough, what is difficult is for the Tory parties, he's not made it. I'm pro Labour and I'm anti-Tory. He's
Just
just
get
said,
this
Yeah.
done.
as
This
a
needs to be
government,
done.
you're
Yeah.
not doing enough.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
also,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, because he's black, there's a whole section that's like, oh, they're tripping over their own cocks to try and not say what it is
Yeah,
they
yeah.
hate about him.
Yeah.
There's like, oh, he does all that, they do good. What do you know? And why don't you feed them out? You know, it's
ridiculous.
like, it's not his fucking job to feed them. It's the government's job.
My-
And they're not,
Yeah.
picking up
That's
the
what I
ball.
mean. That's what I mean. Probably with stuff like that is when they go, "Oh, why is the footballer getting involved?" Blah blah blah. And I think I'm always like, I
'Cause
think
the
the question you need to
politicians
ask is, like,
aren't.
Their
why
footballers
does he
go
feel
for
the need? He has
Brexit.
to.
They think
Like,
it's brilliant.
why the fuck
Yeah.
does he have to? Why does he
Yeah.
feel like he needs to help starving
Yeah.
kids? He shouldn't have to.
It's the same with
We live in a
food
fucking
banks
first
and
world.
charities and
We're
all
a
this.
Third world
Like,
We need to
country,
look
like,
up to our footballers. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like our footballers just like go out with supermodels and have promiscuous orgies and have torrid affairs. We need
Yeah.
a man of moral fiber. Okay, here's one. No, not like that. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
no, one of
no,
us. One of
no,
us.
that's the wrong-
Still.
that's the wrong-
Yeah.
That's the wrong color
We
fiber.
want, we want
Yeah, that's the-
perceived
I mean, it's the
integrity. Yeah.
wrong- yeah.
Well, it's like, well, if anything,
It's-
what is it? Oh, I forgot what I was going to say now. Oh, yeah, another thing was like, obviously, capitalism is pretty much being shown for what it is in the pandemic. And I think the main peak of it is the fact that countries like Denmark and that are donating vaccines to like third world countries so they can get vaccinated. And you're just like, the fact that you have to buy the fucking vaccine in the first place
No
for
profit.
a global pandemic
Yeah.
is like, why is someone making a profit out of it? People trying to stay alive? Like,
Well,
there's no point.
This
like,
isn't weight. It's not weight loss drugs.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's
Who
not
was
like,
it? Was it-
It's not like we're trying
it's
for
not.
health.
This is literally live or death.
Yeah,
Was it
exactly.
Cuba?
And, like,
I think it's also the first time that people outside of the American system have seen, have seen
mass
how
profiteering
actually.
from
Yeah, they've said
pharmaceutical
because of
companies.
course we're fairly in Europe, or just outside of it, we're fairly kind of cushioned from the profiteering angle.
Yeah.
The article that I saw the other day, because obviously the Super Bowl was the other day. The article I saw, Roger Dell. I just thought it just really did make me laugh because it's like it's not that far off what actually could have happened. Was it Roger Goodell, NFL? I can't remember the Onion, Super Bowl, but Super Bowl. There you go. I've got to find it somewhere. Where is it?
Onion.
Something about God, is it gonna be a
Hey,
thing where I
dude.
actually can't bloody
Can
find
you
it?
see me?
I think
What?
it was.
Who's that? Is that you,
I think
dude?
it was something about like a Super Bowl ruined after being sent medical bills for 7,000 first responders after bill sent to NFL League for $7.5 trillion because you did it in a stadium that was out of network or something like that. And I was like, do you know what? The
Nice.
worst thing is that's not entirely like unthinkable that would just be the case of that, like the NFL would be like landed with a bill with like, what the hell? You decided
Yeah.
to charge me in the middle of a it's like charge me in the middle of a pandemic.
That's one thing
Not
I
even
didn't get as well. Like,
unlikely.
what was it?
Sorry, Janus, I
think-
can't.
Boris was talking. Oh, yeah, it was when Boris and Keir were talking earlier today. I think it was like Keir asked him about I can't remember what he asked him about, but Boris brought up the fact that he's brought up the fact about the Oxford vaccine and how it's like produced and stuff, and that Labour wanted to get rid of that as part of the get rid of some funding for it as part of the thing. And it's like, no, they wanted to privatise it. They wanted to make it publicly. They wanted to publicly own it. They wanted to make pharmaceuticals owned by the public, not by private companies.
Yeah, yeah.
Saying, but they wanted to get rid of it. Boris is putting it as if Labour wanted to get rid of
He basically
pharmaceutical companies
every
like
time
that. It's like, no, we wanted to publicly own them so we
Publicly
could
owned,
get
yeah.
it for free, which we're paying fucking millions and billions to get all this fucking stuff. When if we actually run it ourselves, same scientists, but if we just fucking made it public owned, then
Well,
it would
free
be
isn't a word that
a lot cheaper.
Yeah, free isn't
They're not-
exactly.
They just still keep
It would,
pushing it as
yeah.
if like, it's like they wanted to get rid of it. I know they just want to fucking own it. Like,
Yeah, that's what it is, isn't it? Profit
Well,
over
yeah,
people.
His whole thing today
whole thing today was just painting Keir as a communist. It was like, dude, you got a long way to go. Like, seriously, you got a long way to go before Keir is ever like, I'm rather glad that he's finally on the side of big business. It's like he was never not on the side of business. It's like you're, and that's where he came out with that. That's where Keir came out with that thing about I don't want to hear about someone telling me I'm not on the side of business from someone who we all heard his response to when they said Brexit will ruin business. We all heard his response to that one, so maybe he should think twice about what he says. So so he got him on that one, which was fair, and he just kept. But the problem is that Boris, he just kept coming back with that. Ruining socialist nonsense, and finally, where was this pro-capitalism stuff last year, Mr. Speaker? But actually, Lindsay Hoyle smacked him down again today. Did you notice that?
No,
Every
I
time
haven't
he
today.
tries to, he says the Scottish Nationalist Party, whereas it's the Scottish National Party, and he does it every single time. And then Mr. Hoyle said, "I've had quite enough of that, young lad," as he does. Now, they calm down now.
Calm down.
Calm down. I've quite enough of your rubbish behaviour, Mr. Johnson. I kind of like Mr. Hoyle. I kind of like his sort of northern easygoingness.
Yeah, he does.
He's a bit, although he is still no nonsense as well. So
yeah.
But he was very good at that. But the fact that oh god, I've lost my fucking point. But it was the fact that he just kept going back to you're a socialist, but the worst thing is I think there are people who genuinely hear that and think of it as red. Like my mum's lodger is very much like that. Like just whatever. He's also like whatever. Lovely woman, but whatever Trump and Johnson have said, she's seen as gospel. It's always because it's because she's because she's believed the thing, because she's a hard worker. She absolutely believes anything to do with like
whoever's in power has earned that kind
anybody
of.
who pushes for like I'm the party of hard workers. She absolutely like laps up whatever they say. She never thinks like, you know what, life doesn't actually have to be. You could work, but get a slightly better deal out of work. But she doesn't believe that. She's like, oh no, it's all got to be strife, it's all got to be struggle, and it's all got to be like fairly miserable.
People have that obsession with the struggle, don't they? Like people, it's like why can't people have a good life? A happy life. Why does everyone have to like struggle and like go through?
We seem to have like, it's because
somebody commented on something
in this country in America.
Somebody commented on something I said that said the British have the right to suffer is very high in the British mentality. The idea that nothing should ever get better.
Yeah, but I think that's one thing why they use especially like the GOP and the Tories both seem to use this narrative about war all the time. Like all the time, they always bring up war.
In chat,
we're the best. We're war. We're the best at this. We're the best at that. Where's that blitz spirit? Blah 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 blah. And it's like, what do you mean? Where's this fucking blitz spirit? What do you want us to do? We'll hide in a bunker and wait for bombs to pass. Like the blitz spirit is not something we want to try and. We don't really want to try and aim for. We shouldn't be in a situation when we need the fucking blitz spirit in the first place. It should be like, if you actually have better well-being and stuff, you wouldn't feel like you're hard done by.
Really, yeah, exactly. It's like these people need to feel more hard done by, otherwise they've got no, meaning to live. I think that's a part of it, but also with the blitz spirit, a lot of that. I mean, I read up on it a little bit because there was just something that wasn't ringing true about it, and it was especially like, oh, there we go, I found it. I found it was like NFL bank. There's a fake article. NFL bankrupted after receiving $6.3 trillion bill from one hospital for healthcare workers' appearances. It said, I can't believe it's 100 years and it's all gone in one go. I'm going to be in debt for the rest of my life. At present time, an NFL GoFundMe has currently raised a grand total of $792 to help Mr. Goodell pay off the Super Bowl. Funny, but also not quite close to the bone.
Yeah.
In the onion. But the whole blitz spirit, like when you thing with Major Tom, Captain Tom passing away.
Oh yeah, definitely.
If you actually read his autobiography, he doesn't think they don't like it when war heroes don't sugarcoat their experiences. It comes back to what I was saying about 2017, about how it's not a boy's own adventure. It's actually pretty horrific. So, like, actually, when he brings up, like, when anybody says, no, actually, this was horrible, and I really, probably did help me, advance as a human being, but not at the pace that I wanted, not in the way that I wanted.
Yeah.
So
Not for the right reasons.
yeah, not for the
Yeah.
right reasons. Yeah. So and they sort of don't like it when it's very much not liked when you say actually a lot of people went to war because they had no option, they'd be imprisoned or shot. So they didn't go for it because it was a jolly. Then when they were in there, they thoroughly
Yeah.
realized that it was horrible. And people in the homestead realized it was horrible because they had horrible lives. They didn't have enough food to eat. They didn't have anything to drink. They had very few. If you got to go out to the cinema one night, there's a chance that the film had to stop because there'd be a bloody air raid on.
Yeah.
You know, you can only take so much of that before, you know, it's kind of like what we've got now. But the difference is back then, at least you could just go up and hug somebody. You could
Yeah.
be physically close with people. There was no curtailing of that behavior.
Mhm.
What's
Well-
confused people is that the same people who get angry that people are taking precautions at COVID talk about blitz spirit. It's like, as I think we mentioned before, you can't like walk down a lobby and accidentally like, you know, pick up a V2 bomber on your hand and then give it to your granddad and accidentally blow him up. It's not the same thing. You know, there's very few ways in which you as a participant, you as a
It's not really
sufferer can kind of like
comparable, is
make
it?
things worse. It's not comparable, no. It's like the blitz spirit. It's like we all need to come together. Like that's the one thing that literally be the most dangerous thing you could possibly do is to come together. You know, it's like that's you should do anything yet come to. You should stay well the fuck apart. You really shouldn't come together at all. You know, you've got to stay isolated on your own. I think that's why it's really hit people hard because they're trying to shoehorn that blitz spirit thing of let's pull together and like, but they
Well,
literally can't. It's the thing that you mustn't do.
It's just they're
So
living in the
that's why
past in a lot of ways. You know, just living in the past. They
A lot
don't
of people in
they
their
don't want to progress.
50s who keep banging on about the war that they never
Yeah,
fought.
exactly.
If they
never
actually
fought
spoke
in,
to their I don't know one person like, you know, I've known a few people who've been old enough.
Yeah.
They don't speak about it with reverence. They speak about it like it was horrible and it was awful, but we were told morale and to keep the propagandists at bay that we had to pretend we were having a jolly of a time, but we weren't.
Well,
I'm reading
there's like next
Spike
to no one
Milligan's.
alive anymore that's that was
Yeah,
in the
exactly,
war. So
yeah.
it's like,
That's
why is
what's-
that always being
that's
spoke
what-
about? Like,
I think what it is I think there's
it's
a
selective
generation
history
that
as well because we don't get taught everything about it.
No, it's also the fact that there was a generation raised on heroic war films and not on actual experiences. There's a generation that think it was all the Dirty Dozen and the Heroes of Telemark and, you know, Where Eagles Dare and the Battle of Britain, which really were just kind of, you know, they were adventures. They weren't gritty, realistic dramas. And
Propaganda
when
in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Well, you
When
went
the
Dad's
time- I
Army
mean,
and
the-
all, which is just about people like having a jolly and a laugh in a fucking
Dad's but then
waiting
of
for them to
course
invade.
once in a
Like,
while, Dad's Army
Add
would
the odd
actually
bit
once
on
in a
it.
while end on something serious because like they, you know, they all did have their
Yeah,
struggles
they all
in
ran
life and
well,
quite
the
a few
ending of the
episodes
season
would
was
end on an air raid.
them all
you
walking
know,
off,
like, they
innit?
were like,
Yeah, I was gonna say the end was
Yeah,
them just
exactly,
going
yeah.
towards the coast, wasn't it? Towards everyone invading,
Exactly,
or
yeah.
trying to invade anyway.
Yeah, and it's the same as Blackadder. Blackadder ends
Oh,
in the
yeah,
way it
yeah.
does, and
Yeah.
Blackadder doesn't sugarcoat how good it was. I think most people know the First World War was just horrific, but but that's why I think they idolized the Second World War because the Second World War there's an element of, you know, the movie, the Hollywood
Cinematic
thing
kind
has
of
made so
feeling.
much more. Yeah, because it happened on it like the First World War was kind of static. It happened in like one place and didn't really move very much. I think the only people that have made it look epic is the people behind 1917 because that is a phenomenal piece of film work. But the thing is, there's the war in Africa, there's the war in East Asia, there's
Italy,
the war in Europe,
right.
there was the politics at home at the time. There's so many different facets to World War II that they've got so much to work with, and also the fact that it's the first war because they came out of it into then a very prospering economy, which the First World War didn't. That's kind of, I think, where the idea that it produced, you know, it was a good thing, but it is amazing.
But all the
I'm
people that
sort of
talk
looking
about
forward to
it
when
are like all these people
live
that
it.
are like, yeah, exactly. They didn't live it. They what?
Yeah.
Typical.
56.
Yeah, they're like usually like bold, fat people. They wouldn't even be able to deal with it. Like they've been, you know,
Yeah, well, like, what was it in
cuddled most
in
of their life.
What was it in the Brexit thing on was it the day of Brexit where they posted on the White Cliffs of Dover those led by donkeys done that
Led by donkeys,
post
yeah.
on the White Cliffs of Dover and it was those two war veterans from World War One or Two. I can't remember which one. It might have been
They
both.
said it was a
There
sad
was
thing.
like that. Yeah, there was that Welshman and then that Yorkshireman, I think it was, and they were both like, this goes against what we fought for in the war. We fought for a union. We didn't like to be united. We
Yeah.
didn't
It
like
must
to
have
be
wound them
divided.
up something. It must have wound them up something horrible because they're the people. They, the core Brexiteers will not stop banging on about respecting war veterans and the war was great.
Yeah.
And, we won the world. And then actually, people who actually is like, no, shut up, little young man. I actually did fight the war. I didn't fight
Yeah.
it. Like, it's also the element of I think there's a lot of too many people who just see the war as like we fought it because Hitler was getting on our turf. Or he was
Yeah, well,
coming over here and giving it all that shit. Like, no, there were
Yeah,
actually horrible the things that led to Hitler doing all the stuff that he did. That's the stuff they should actually research more into because if they realized how many things that they get behind that they think they're British patriots, but actually it's like change Priti Patel's
Oh,
attitude towards people and just stick Goebbels in there
Yeah.
instead,
yeah.
or just stick
Yeah.
Hermann Goering, and it's like, how similar are those two things, and how much are you like? If you
Himmler.
the same people, yeah, the same people who bang on about this is like 1984. It's like, weren't you the kind of person that puts a laugh react whenever they say there's an immigrant boat that's
Yeah, I
been
know,
sunk in the
right?
channel?
Yeah.
And it's like you literally
Yeah.
missed the entire bit in 1984 where there is a cinema of people being propagandized into laughing at immigrants being shot dead in the water of the British Channel, which is a whole part
Yeah.
of the
Yeah,
book.
yeah.
And it's like, so you've clearly never fucking read it,
Yeah.
Well, so the
But it's
Venn
like the whole- the
diagram,
main-
people who think things are Orwellian, and then the people who've actually read Orwell
Oh,
is just two completely
Yeah.
separate. circles.
yeah, exactly.
It's like the whole thing where they wanted to like
It's not about
the main
surveillance, it's
thing
about
for
thought,
Brexit,
isn't
and
it?
that was always like about take back control of our borders.
Yeah.
And if anything, within the first year of being out of the EU, it's been proven that we could have done that all fucking long.
French
Because all
proved it
the
at
amount
the
of
end of
countries in the
last
EU
year.
that have been Well, the thing
The
is,
French
that's what I
proved it
mean.
by
The amount of
shutting
countries
their
in the
borders.
EU that have been closing their borders and free of their will without
We
having to
didn't
ask
do
the
it.
EU about
Yeah.
it, and then with take control of our borders, but
The
still
people
keep
who
them fucking
banged
open
on
when
about
we
it the
needed them
most
shut.
could have done it at any time.
It's still not
Yeah,
closed,
exactly.
like, it's
Any time, which
wide
we should have
open.
done it
Yeah,
in
no,
March.
it's still
We
not
should have
fully
done it
closed
in
now.
March, and we
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah.
No,
What was it?
exactly. So we
Only
banged
like
on
last
about it.
month
Every
that
other
they put the
country went.
72 hours in.
I mean, it's
Like-
what do we do? Of course, we say that's them being mean to us. It's like, no, that's them protecting their own citizens. It's not them being
Yeah.
mean. Like, why is it like? But it's this. I think that I think there's. I think amongst younger people in general, I think there is an idea that like they call us entitled. As like, you want to call us entitled, or about your idea that like every person in a foreign country owes you something because
Yeah.
you're from Britain.
Yeah.
Or you know, literally, you were born. You're amazing.
They're taking
because you
away
came out of your
something
mum's
from
womb
them
in
personally.
fucking Northampton.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't
Yeah.
make you brilliant, and it doesn't mean
Yeah.
that other countries and other nations and societies owe you everything.
Completely
especially not the
ignoring
ones
like all
that
the
are better
nurses
after-
and doctors and everything that makes
Yeah.
a country so prosperous. Like arguably,
Yeah.
it's from a lot of the immigration that we have become that prosperous.
and they
Obviously,
become
Yeah,
so
well,
we're so shitty.
Just look,
We
if you
demand
just look at the NHS,
those nurses.
there's more
Yeah.
non-British people working for it than there are British people that work there.
Yeah.
There's more immigrants
they-
that work for the
It's
NHS.
horrible. and
What people
shitty
don't
and so
understand
if you're
is-
not on this income bracket.
yeah. What people don't
Yeah.
understand is
Can't
just that
stay
these
here
people
anymore.
are exactly the same as
Yeah,
us.
you
They
have to
just
earn over
look
20 grand. I was
slightly
like, I can't
different.
remember the last time I earned 20 grand.
Like, you know.
Working like
or
48,
the nurses.
50
It's
hour
like,
weeks.
so you
like-
want, yeah. So you want people to be in your NHS, but you don't want to pay them enough, and then you set the threshold so low that they physically can't stay here
yeah,
because they
so
don't
haven't
reach the
give the pay
criteria
rise, which
of
reaches,
the pay
yeah,
that
exactly.
you.
And
Yeah,
you've got to
we'll
be here
give
for
them
at
the
least
pay rise.
5
It's like, no,
years
because
before
is
they
why
get
there's so
given
many
like
EU
their
nationals leaving
visa
the
and stuff.
EU.
So it's
Yeah,
like,
well,
you
there's
know,
so many EU nationals leaving the NHS.
yeah, but
Is it-
you know,
I'm sorry,
they,
what was that?
But there's not enough.
well, they need to. Well, I think it's 5 years. They expect people to be here before they, can get citizenship. Yet they always send them back just before the 5 years, so that they can't. It's just
Yeah.
the same thing happened to
Nothing.
my
Yeah,
girlfriend.
and
like,
they're very much against immigration, but we will be welcoming 3 million Hong Kong nationals in over the next 4
yeah,
years.
it's like
Yeah.
you know that they're
Apparently, it's different because numbers is just it's just like, well, that's a different kind. I have not at all opposed to it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
that's
it's,
another
I think they
problem
could
with
bring
the
us
whole
some good stuff.
That was a whole other problem with the whole Brexit thing originally. Anyway, wasn't it? It's like people took it back. It was basically people being racist. A lot of it was racism, but it was
It's also a lot
misinformed
of
racism. It was
anti-continental.
misinformed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's misinformed racism as well
Yeah.
because the amount of people that be like racist to Asians and Africans and stuff. And you're like, hold on a minute, Last time I checked, they're not in the EU. So
Well,
what the fuck does that have to
they're
do with
taking our
Brexit?
jobs, rhetoric.
Exactly, yeah.
Like,
Like,
Yeah.
it's
like-
like,
it's
I mean,
ridiculous.
you'll trust a Polish person until they open their mouth. You'll probably invite them in, and then the second they announce that they're from Hungary, like, get out. And it's like, oh, so you didn't mind them? You didn't mind them
Yeah.
when you didn't hear them speaking.
Yeah.
Like when they, you know, when they
when
when
you
you
thought
just
they
knew
were
that they were white
exactly
folk
like
of some
them.
description,
Yeah.
you were
It's
fine with them. And
ridiculous,
the
like.
second, yeah, exactly. And then it's like Hong Kong. It's like, if anything, the only that I can only see boosts in tech coming from that. But now they're talking about free ports, which is probably not a good thing because that's just more. I think they're pushing for free ports because they're brilliant tax dodges.
Yeah, well, I think that's the whole reason behind this Brexit vote in the first place.
Well,
They
yeah,
wanted us to be a
exactly.
tax haven
Yeah,
like
because there's
Switzerland.
going to be investigation in
Yeah, right.
2021 into tax evasion in the European countries, and
Yeah.
obviously
Oh,
they
yeah,
wanted to get out
they
before
was
2020.
starting like this year or next year, wasn't it? And they
Yeah,
wanted to get rid
2021
of
they
it
wanted
quicker.
it. So
Yeah.
obviously they, yeah.
2019, and I think there was some. I don't know whether there was some weird loophole that means that we get out of that or something. But it was like it was caught. It was big tax evasion. It wasn't like they
Yeah.
were not talking about a plumber fiddling their the expense account. I think they
And
were
offshore
literally talking
offshore
about
accounts and that as well.
big things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've taken, haven't the EU taken like Guernsey and Jersey and Alderney, like the Channel Islands? They've taken them off of the things they no longer consider to be like immune from criticism on that front. I think they've
Can you elaborate a bit more on that?
I don't know. I don't know.
well, you
about
know, the
Jersey or
Channel
Guernsey.
Islands are the Channel Islands are sort of taxed like the Barclay brothers were
Oh,
in
yeah. They're like
they
little
they
tax
were they
havens.
they had a little tax haven. I think one of them was from Ireland. Actually, my uncle was from Jersey. Actually, one of my uncles, and what they've done is that they are well-known tax dodgers, like the Isle of Man.
Mhm.
But I think they technically fall in the respite of. I don't know. I think they've said that because they're independent. I think they do sort of fall under the scrutiny of EU anti-tax avoidance policy.
Sounds
So
about right.
the only thing they could get around that would be for them to push to become like an extension of the UK.
Yeah.
And which or the Isle of Man. I think they're going to do the same for the Isle of Man because technically the Isle of Man isn't the UK. At least not. I mean,
Is
have
it
you
not?
ever been?
Oh man,
I've
that's
never been there.
that's between
Man.
Ireland and Manchester, wherever it is.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
it's up
strange
there, yeah.
place.
Yeah.
It's like kind of like a little mini Cumbria / Ireland. That's the only way I can describe it.
My ex-girlfriend's dad used
The only place
to
where I've
work
seen
a
like
little
a
bit on there, but
90-year-old grandmother.
yeah, don't know much about it.
Yeah.
No, I don't know much
I've
about
done a
it
lot
either,
of
yeah.
gigs over there. It's one of the few places I saw. I remember getting off they like their speed over there. I remember getting off, and there was an old lady trying to. I swear, blind. She must have been pushing 80, and she was trying to get a Murcielago, like a brand new shiny Murcielago with Isle of Man plates, off the ferry without scraping it on the rope. And I was like, this is a weird place. And then the second she was on, she was foot to the floor, and she was gone. And like everybody around there drives like an absolute nutcase.
I
'cause
honestly
there's no
thought you
speed
meant
limits.
speed as in the drug speed, but that's cool. I
Oh,
thought
no,
you was
no,
like you went to a
there's
gig
speed
and then
there's-
they're handing out speed left, right, and centre.
honest,
Don't know.
If you
Yeah.
took speed in the Isle of Man, you'd just be bored quicker. I think that's the only that's the only thing it could make you do. It's pleasant, but it's there's only so much of it. It's a bit like it's not even like living on the Isle of Wight. You can just hop over to Portsmouth and
I thought it
be
was
on the
quite good.
mainland.
Yeah.
It's all right. I mean, yeah, but it's I couldn't live there, and most people who do live there do so because of tax purposes.
Yeah, I mean,
Guys,
it's a nice place.
I'm knackered because I've got an early start.
Yeah, no worries, man. That's cool.
It's been great to chat.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, no worries.
well,
You
wish
up
you
for
well in the rest.
next
I'm
week
glad-
maybe?
I'm just
Sorry, say
shooting
that
this
again?
X well.
You up for a bit next week? Next
Was that
week?
saying next week,
Next
you say?
week? Yep.
Do it next week, yeah? Yeah, I'm down for,
Again,
I'm down for
sorry,
next week.
Yeah,
I
just
yeah, I'm down for next week. Let's try and get Mr. Pearson in as well.
yeah,
We have
exactly.
more
Yeah,
info on this impeachment trial as well.
yeah.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Was
Well,
it
I-
at the moment-
Oh,
from
God,
what I
we haven't
gather
even-
from what I've seen, is that it takes 2/3 for him to be convicted of like impeachment,
hmm
but it only takes a majority, so like 51 out of the 100 votes, to actually get him to not be able to be in a political office.
Well, saw some
ever
of the
again.
defence,
So it's like
and
he doesn't have to be convicted to be able to not be able to be in office again. So
I
it can still
actually
stop
don't
him from being in
think-
office without impeaching him.
I actually think he could, regardless of if he doesn't get impeached. I actually think that he actually could he could actually be the best thing that happens to left-wing politics in a long time. If he does start his because if he does start his own party,
it's going to take him away from GOP.
Yeah, exactly. The GOP, there will be it literally go back to the days of like Mitt Romney and boring, sort of like fairly sort of innocuous but still somewhat right wing.
They're losing their mascot
in that one, and then the fucking loony bin will be with Trump.
Yeah.
And then
it'll be the opposite of what happened with the Labour one, with Lib Dems
exactly
about the student
and then the
fees.
thing is,
It'll be the opposite of that, where the Lib Dems took away from Labour, they're going to take away from.
Yeah. So, and then the centre left, the left, and the Liberals and the far left, they will have nowhere to go but the Democrats. So they will just be like, right, well, I guess I don't want Trump ever getting in. If there's a slim chance, even on the third party ticket, he will. Then I'm going to put my vote behind the Democrats. So it'll do like with the amount of people who went, I'm not a Trump guy, but I'm a Republican, but I don't want a Democrat. It'll do the inverse of that because the shoe will be on the other foot. He will be leading the fucking, he will be leading the party of QAnon.
Monster Raven Lunar Party.
He literally, will.
What was, what was the party that came? Oh, Change. It's like Change UK, isn't it? Like. It's like Change UK. Do you remember? Because they exactly, because they came out of the Brexit party. Brexit party was it?
Because they made up
Reform.
Yeah, they made up Brexit party.
UKIP was the pro-Remain party that came out like very briefly with Chuka Umunna and that lot.
Was it Remain? I thought it was.
Yeah. It was like a load of different MPs from across the board. It was Tory MPs, Lib Dems, Labours, Independents. It was a bunch of people like that, and they all came out and they
most of them came from UKIP.
Pro-Remain party, so they were then.
They lasted like a month or so, didn't they? Yeah, I can't. They disappeared soon.
If you're thinking of the Nigel Farage one, I think it's the Reform Party. I think.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay, yeah. I think it might be that one. Then.
Not to be confused with the Reform Party that Trump almost ran with in 2000. But fun enough,
they've got the same campaigners, don't they? That's what it was. Same campaigners that done the Trump thing were the ones that did Brexit. That's how Farage.
Well, Cambridge Analytica just did their publicity for them.
Yeah,
they had the same.
Went on tape saying they made up locker. Yeah, exactly. They went
Dominic
on
Cummings
saying that they made that shit up, and yet people still believe people who said we lied.
Yeah, Dominic Cummings himself was saying
that's
like
the mentality when you're dealing with that. How do you work backwards from we've got people who have been told they've been lied to, and no, I'm still believing the thing you made up. It's like, but the point is, I made it up. It's not true.
Exactly. It doesn't make
emails, exactly, yeah. But I mean, it's like we thought, but back then we didn't have pure nonsense to deal with. We didn't have, baby eating, blood drinking Democrats, satanic paedophiles,
Pizzagate
all going to be
stuff, yeah.
Pizzagate. Yeah, well, that was the tip. That was like the tip of the iceberg with that one.
Oh, that was just.
Alex Jones turned on them because on his own show he said claims are ludicrous. I was like, talk about the pot and the fucking kettle.
Yeah, no, Jesus Christ, Alex Jones.
QAnon ludicrous. Like, dude, listen to yourself once in a while. You'll be amazed at what comes out of your mouth. Anyway, I'm absolutely knackered.
Yeah, no worries, man. Yeah. All right, guys, I'll keep updated.
Same time next week.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Crowd going.
Cool. Yeah. All right, guys. If you haven't already, guys, if you can hit the follow, that'd be great. We're going to try and do a weekly thing. We used to do a Friday night, but yeah, we're going to get a few more people in. We might change it up a little bit, but thanks for watching. Cheers, guys. Bye. Say bye, everyone.
All right.
Say bye now. Bye. Oh, he's gone. All right. Well, thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. Bye.